The best chance he has will be using traffic, maybe into something like the bus stops again. But right now, the gap is too great. And again, Bertolotti's got to be careful coming into... way off. Now, that might be seen as a bit of force majeure. Nevertheless, it'll be noted. And again, he can't get the job done under brakes.
And this, in theory, is a slower car that he's trying to find a way past a lap. But Bortolotti has got Frins right up behind him. And look, Laurens Vanthoor is getting closer again in 28, isn't he? He's chipping away. But now the back marker goes one side and then the other. Is he being cooperative or is he not? Well, Bortolotti finally gets a run up the inside.
Yeah, but can Frins get through without getting the nose chopped off? He gets up the inside, makes sufficient room for himself. And Laurens Vanthoor sitting back watching, thinking, well, I need to get rid of the Ferrari ahead of me. I want to keep in touch with my sister car.
Now, number 50, we saw a driver change. Passin Lathoras is behind the wheel of it. Passin is quick, but he's nowhere near as quick as Alessandro Pierguidi. So the car has lost a place to Maxime Soulet's Bentley number 8. And it means now that Passin Lathoras has dropped down into 5th place. And it could be that in this next hour with him behind the wheel, it loses a bit more ground.
I think it's sort of inevitable. And that little moment of tension and then we look into the Lamborghini garage. Stefan Winkelmann, CEO of Quattro GmbH, which is
he's up at Audi
Lamborghini, and of course Dr. Ulrich, who has masterminded so many great successes for the Audi team, head of Audi Motorsport, and interesting gentleman, clever man.
That's absolutely right. So having masterminded great success, we have the leaders coming down then the hill. Now, remember about an hour or so ago, we touched on Maxime Martin being investigated for possibly overtaking under the full course yellow. No further action. The stewards have had a look at it, and all is good. So Maxime Martin presses on. He's given the car over to Alexander Sims now. 99 is in 11th place, but the lead battle, it was just under a fifth of a second at the start of the lap. They are still absolutely nose to tail on this lap 29 of the race.
Yes, they've got the Nissan up ahead, so that's a car that normally is pretty quick in a straight line. But of course, hoping that, wave blue flags, blue lights around the circuit. So we wait to see what's going to happen with these two cars. You can see the impatience from both drivers as they... And that can't quite see which Nissan of the two that is, the 22, we think. So into, watch what happens here in the exit. Oh, again, the Audi is going to get a real run up the outside this time. Mirko Bertolotti being compromised by the Porsche, but on the wrong side for Robin Freins to try and make a move. All he can try and do is get better position there. Now make your cut back, get on the par a little bit earlier, drive off the corner, not make a pass there, but think about it. Can I do anything up at the La Source or not?
So nose to tail, they come over the timing line, and Frins has a look to the inside line down towards La Source. Can't make his move there, but can he get the undercut now because it's a tighter line? Evenly matched cars coming out of the corner. They're going to run downhill absolutely together. Robin Frins tries to get up alongside. Mirko Bortolotti with his elbows out tries to cover the line. He's just about got the grunt down the hill, so Bortolotti does hang on to the race lead. But can Frins challenge on the run up towards Les Combes now? They're absolutely nose to tail, these two. You've got Laurens Vanthoor getting back into the mix as well. But Bortolotti in a straight line has just edged away.
That was heavy-duty stuff coming down the hill because there was nothing given. There was no room between those two cars. At the point you have to commit for the first part of Eau Rouge, Mirko Bertolotti held his ground. Robin Freins realised, I'm not going to get through here, so he had to maybe marginally come out of the throttle, and consequently he wasn't quite so quick up over the top of Eau Rouge and Radillon and lost out marginally. Again, sitting behind, who is it? But our good friend Laurens Vanthoor saying, well, I'm having fun watching these two knock lumps out of each other for a battle for the lead. I've just got to sit back and wait for it to happen.
And Maxime Soulet has just done the absolute best in the first sector in Bentley number 8 as well. So while we're looking at the battle for the top 3, you've got the 4th place Bentley also now creeping into the mix. So he's got some ground to make up, but Soulet charging on. Just on Pro-Am for a quick moment, Phil Keane, we saw pit a little while ago. He was talking of rear tyres overheating and therefore possible tyre degradation. Charlie Butler-Henderson, who is going to patrol the pits for us in the night, was talking to Ollie Gavin about it, but they aren't overly concerned about it. All seems well in the Barwell camp apparently, but that's why Phil Keane pitted just a bit earlier than they planned, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we're watching the lead Lamborghini, I don't know whether Phil Keane's car is set up identically, but the Lamborghini not looking to me right now to be the most easy car for a driver to handle when you're right on the limit, trying to find a way past traffic. And again, the two lead cars over a lap now, they haven't been able to make any ground on the Nissan ahead of them. and the Nissan isn't directly causing them any problem, but it's got good straight line speed.
So through the traffic they come. Robin Fridge absolutely committed to getting the lead of the race, and Lawrence Vanthor right there as well. So the two WRT Audis, Vincent Voss's team, coming up over the timing line, hunting down the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini. And Mirko Bortolotti has had to fend off Ferraris, now he's got to fend off Audis. Fridge pulls out and has a look, but as they come to La Source, again, there's the Nissan they need to negotiate. And Fridge, conscious that he's got Vanthor up behind him. Now, as teammates, they're not going to do anything silly, but they are focused on trying to find a way past that Lamborghini. They don't want to be losing time at any stage of the race.
Now, coming into the critical Eau Rouge, what speed can the Nissan get through? Will that have a bearing on the exit speed of the Lamborghini? Robin Friend probably closed up marginally on the rear of the Lamborghini as they came over radio. He's got an option. He's certainly within a zone to pick up the slipstream, and the Nissan goes right to pass traffic. It's passing cars and it can't get past the BMW. This is not what Mirko Bortolotti needs, but the man who's sitting there enjoying all this, clearly Lawrence Vanthor.
911 for speeding in the pit lane. Drive-through penalty 911, speeding in the pit lane.
So that's the Porsche in 62nd place. That is part of that national class. As there wide goes the Nissan. The leaders go through to lap it, still in the same order. 911 gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Mirko Bortolotti is a very busy boy because he's trying to lap, he's trying to defend, he's trying to do everything all at once.
A lot of concentration required, and that's just to handle the traffic. Friens gets through, Vanthor has to wait because the BMW takes its line into Puho. He sits up, gets up, he tries to get up at the inside, but the second part of Puho, the BMW closes the apex of the corner, so Vanthor has to wait. And he can draw in, it doesn't even get through coming into Puho. So that will be causing him a little bit of a rotation because the pace of the BMW way off the pace right now of the third place Audi.
Car 77 for not respecting track limits. Drive-through penalty, car 77 for not respecting track limits.
Is that the second time?
It is, it's Kevin Estra's car again. So he's already had one. I'm just checking to see. It is Kevin Estra behind the wheel of it still. So he's had two drive-throughs. We've not had 2 hours of the race. I mean, Kevin, come on.
One of the most important things a driver can be is consistent. And Kevin Estra clearly has been consistent in running off the track,
Yes,
mostly
quite.
at the exit of Blanchimont. Again, the lead two cars coming into traffic still behind. This is one of the other Lamborghinis. So they got ahead of the BMW, which was going to be a little bit of a problem, but they're now clear of that. So, I mean, for Mirko Bortolotti, the concentration that he needs to just manage the traffic and at the same time manage Robin Friends, who's looking at every opportunity. For every little gap that closes, another one opens up. So you're having to do two things, plus just drive the car.
Finding a way past David Russell, the Australian, in Roger Largo's Lamborghini. So the leader goes by, and Robin Friends flashing the lights to try and warn the quick Aussie of his progress. So as they work their way now up the Camel Straight alongside pulls the Audi. And out of all of this, Vanthor has dropped back a little bit, hasn't he? He's lost about a second and a half against the top two as they turn their way now once again up towards Les Combes. So Bortolotti in the traffic. He's gained a little bit while Friends was stuck there. But look at this, Bortolotti suddenly has to find a way past 53 Ferrari. And life becomes very, very difficult for him. That's the Ishikawa Motoyaki-driven car. He's gone through, but so also has Friends. And Robin Friends gets up the inside. This is for the race lead, and Bortolotti just hangs on to it. But will he go wide at Bruxelles? No, he gets the clipping point, gets the car turned in. Robin Friends had his best chance yet there up the inside, but he couldn't quite do it. And you see what a difference the traffic can make.
Oh yeah, and Robin Friends did the right thing. He squeezed, but it wasn't going to happen, and he had to back out of it. And again, look, the Lamborghini under brakes, having to make an adjustment with the Ferrari directly ahead. Another opportunity for the Audi behind to make a move. He's right under the rear of the Lamborghini, but again, in the middle of the road. Mirko Bortolotti is saying, I'm not giving you an inch on the outside, not an inch on the inside. If you want to have a go, I'll leave it to you.
So have a look at Vanthor in third, and in the next wave of cars is the catching Maxime Soulet, who is lapping 1 or 2, depending on which car you measure him against, seconds per lap quicker. Some of that's his pace, some of that is the traffic, so now he's stuck in the back markers. That's going to go against him, but Soulet is coming back into the mix in number 8. And also, don't ignore number 7, Bentley. From the pit lane, it's up into 30th place. It might not sound much, but it means that the car has passed 35 cars.
And that both Bentleys on laps within the last 3 or 4 laps have been putting in laps in 2 minutes 21 seconds. That's currently 3 seconds a lap quicker than the lead cars are lapping at. Soulet up the inside. But the Nissan again just seems to get in the way as it passes one of the back markers, one of the Ferraris. So Soulet's got to wait for the Ferrari to get out of its way. The Nissan, of course, a good grunt off the corner. The Bentley having to wait until the Nissan makes its exit from the corner, so he is going to be delayed. He was making great progress up to the back of Laurens van Thor. 3 seconds as they came across the line. This time, it was previously down to 2.5 seconds.
So the race leaders blast on, and as they work their way down the hill out of Eau Rouge, Robin Frins trying to catch up to the back of the race leader. So Mirko Bortolotti it is leading the way as the cars accelerate their way up towards Les Combes. And there you can see Maxime Soulet trying to find his way up and alongside the Nissan. So as the cars sprint their way into Les Combes and go up the inside, yes, done it. Got the job done around the outside, in fairness, in the end. So the Bentley puts a lap on the Nissan, and Maxime Soulet then, of course, has lost ground at the end of that last lap by getting past the Ricardo Sanchez-driven Nissan that's in 41st place. There are the leaders, just coming over the brow behind. These Van Thor lights are flashing, trying to go through the traffic. The hard-charging Marco Seefried, incidentally, who is 64th, is the next one being warned about track limits. And one of the Santaloc Audis, Marco Bononomi, is in the pits and has been there for something like now 7 laps. So 25, the ISR car, has got a big problem. It's lost that much time so early.
So here we go again. On the exit of Puho, down the hill into Fagnes, and at least the racetrack momentarily clear of significant traffic. We've got the Pratt in the gravel, 41 Ferrari. So whereabouts yellow flag? Let's have a look. That's up at Les Combes. So the car trying to get out of the way. So yellow flag up at Les Combes. So but it's not going to be a problem, we think, other than if it is decided that the car will need external assistance, then we may yet again see a full course yellow.
You've taken the words. I was about to suggest it could well be a full course yellow, so we'll see what develops here. It's not quite as close to the edge of the road as the Seefried Ferrari was, but it's in an awkward place. We know that people can run wide there, and I don't see how they can extricate it with a long line of cars flowing past them all the time.
I think that's the difficulty. Any corner here, if the corner workers or the people that are going to recover the vehicle are not way from the action, you just bring it into control the way you do it as a full course yellow. Everything then is stabilised, clear the car, then everybody gets. There's no gainer or loser in those situations.
Yeah, exactly. Over the timing line go the leaders. We're down to 0.268 of a second. And there is the 4th place Bentley number 8. Now wait for the 5th place car, 98 Nick Katzberg. The graphic will come up as soon as he breaks the beam. He has done so. There's the BMW look coming towards us now. Behind him in 6th place is Audi 74, the white Audi, from Pereira. And so down in 7th, having been 2nd and briefly leading for a lap, is Ferrari 50. But with passing Lathoris not as quick, understandably the car drops down the order. 8th, Rob Bell. 9th is Audi 6, lights flashing Frank Stippler. 10th, the next BMW, and that is Alexander Sims.
The car in the top 10, I'm slightly surprised at, is the McLaren 58. We thought, after the pace that we saw from Shane van Gindersbergen in qualifying, that the McLaren was going to just muller the field. But it's run at a regular pace. They're doing something which is a part of old-fashioned, if you like, endurance racing. You set a target time and you stick to it. You just don't make mistakes. You keep to that time and you minimise all the time in the pit lane. And that's where races used to be won. There's the snatch vehicle making its way up now to the exit of Les Combes to remove the Ferrari. We still haven't got a full course yellow. We've just got a statutory yellow up at the top of the exit. So that vehicle will make its way on the access road and tries not to go to the racetrack. I thought at one point it was.
Yes.
So he goes around that inner access road. The Ferrari will be pulled clear, and once again it will probably be allowed to get on to that very narrow access road and rejoin the race.
Albeit with a lap lost at least. So 41, an AM Cup Ferrari dropping down the order. And on track, the Audi, they're looking a little bit nervous.
Yeah, Laurens van Thor just really running the curbs a bit raggedly on the exit of the first part of what it's called Campus, the corner these days, and then into Stavelo. But the lead 3 cars covered by 1.5 seconds as they make their way up the hill into Blanchimont. Again, just this thing of how much curb can you run on the entry, how much are you going to risk running on the exit. The exit is the key because that gives you the speed. Robin Frins has a look, but again, you need to be alongside before you hit the brakes to have any chance to take a clean overtake up the inside, because you will lose so much speed on the inside having to make a much more tight turn. Look at the Audi quicker out of the So that was, I mean, that's an indication that, I mean, Robin Freins almost overran the Lamborghini as they came into the braking zone.
So down the hill they go. Lawrence Vanthor sitting on the back of them as well. He's got himself back into the equation, hasn't he now, because they've held each other up by squabbling. So down the hill once again they come, and Freins with the lights flashing now. Flashing lights at a back marker to get out of the way, I understand. Mirko Bortolotti is not a back marker, and he's not about to let Robin Freins by, and he's not really going to crack under the pressure because he's soaked this up for an hour and a half or so now. What benefit is there to Freins flashing the headlights?
It's just one of those things as a driver you do. Freins pulls up, tries to get alongside, but hasn't got the speed. You just want to annoy, frustrate. Anything to take away from the guy that you're trying to challenge. Sometimes, I mean, you might even give him a little sort of love tap, just to remind him. No, I don't mean to be aggressive, but just a little gentle, just a little paint rub, maybe. But the flashing lights is an irritation. It would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
It's a bit like in the motorway, you get some idiot up behind you. I just turn the mirror down. That only annoys them more.
It takes a lot to get John wound up, everybody. Honest. Now, Vanthor is getting closer and closer.
Cars off on the exit.
That's Estra. That's Kevin Estra, and that's a big off, isn't it? That's going to be a safety car, I would have thought.
Absolutely.
But Kevin Estra has had an off. Now, was that his impetuosity in traffic? There's bits of car all up the road. We're going to surely have a full course yellow, but I would anticipate this will go
Full
safety
course
car.
yellow in 20 seconds.
So there's confirmation, and that car's out of the race. Kevin Est has done what he was due another drive-through penalty anyway, and that's it. Game over.
Right front wheel
10
off
seconds.
the car.
So that 20-second countdown.
He's hobbling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
So our second full course yellow of the race is for Kevin Estra's car. It may convert into a full safety car period. We will see. You're right, Kevin was hobbling. Now, did he lose it himself? Was he caught out in the traffic? Either way, big damage.
Yeah, but at a quick part of the circuit. That's after Radion, as you go through the curve that leads onto Camel Straight. The right front wheel was beside there's Kevin,
Car
and he's got up.
77 hit the barriers on the right-hand
A
side.
Ferrari
of the
involved
track.
as well. Maybe
To
the
all
two cars.
drivers, please
So two cars
pass
involved.
on the left-hand side.
So it's certainly been Kevin Est in the traffic, and here's the replay. So look at the rear of the shot. Oh, the Ferrari gets tagged by Kevin Estra coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah,
And which Ferrari was it? Did we see quickly? No, but that's a huge impact for Estra.
I mean, the responsibility of coming out the pit lane is both people. You've got to be aware of traffic exiting, and Kevin Estra coming out on full throttle. Now, whether he was blindsided or not, but certainly,
Oof.
and you can see, oh,
Wow.
wow. That was a big, no wonder he's hobbling, because his right leg would have had a massive rattle. When a car hits a barrier like that, your limbs just get thrown around the chassis. There's lots of very substantial bits of roll cage and whatever, and that does hurt. That's a big impact.
A very big impact, but I'm just intrigued to look at the exit of the pit lane again and just see relative position of each car and where, if at all, you would lay blame to the car coming out or the car on the track for not giving room. So I'd like to, when we see that again, we'll have another opinion.
I don't know whether there's a regulation, because the pit lane exit, let's look at it again. Kevin Estra coming out in full power, the two cars side by side, and for me, ultimately, you've got to put the responsibility with the Porsche, because those two cars were on racetrack.
Yeah.
Kevin Estra was rejoining the circuit. He ought to have had maybe a little bit more awareness, but it's one of those issues. I don't know if there's a regulation in the rules for this event that says the car exiting the pit lane has got to accept the responsibility of rejoining the racetrack. He was within all the requirements that he's required to do, but when you get two cars side by side, maybe he was blind. Maybe he didn't even know they were there.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. It's hard to judge. Hopefully, Kevin will make it back to the pits, and we'll get an opportunity to find out from the Porsche team what did truly occur. But right now, if there's any portion to be blamed, it's got to be with the Porsche.
The Ferrari was 53, the Ishikawa Motoaki car, so that takes out of the race, assuming the damage is so severe, not only him, but also Lorenzo Bontempelli, Olivier Beretta, and Giancarlo Fisichella. So that's a significant Ferrari.
Oh, that's a painful Ferrari to lose.
Yeah, exactly. So Kevin Est, I think, does have a case to answer there, because the Ferrari was also slightly in advance when they only slightly, but it was just ahead when the Porsche came out of the pit lane, and that was having just served his second drive-through penalty. So Kevin has not covered himself in glory hitherto, and then gets involved in that incident. But it could have been that the Ferrari was just on his blind spot to give him the benefit of the doubt. But the net result is you've got two very badly damaged cars. We're still under full course yellow. We've not gone to a safety car, but we are under full course yellow conditions at the moment.
Well, I'm not surprised that this has happened because the pit lane exit here is a high-speed exit just beyond radio. And where you get two cars side by side, legitimately racing for position. Look here again, they're side by side, the middle one slightly further ahead. I don't know, I mean, you have to say the responsibility clearly is with Kevin Estre. He could have backed off and let those two cars go, and it was an unnecessary contact.
Yeah. And so early on, a wrecked car. Poor old Jürgen Hering, who owns that Porsche. Remember, it caught fire at Paul Ricard, and they had to sort that out. And now it comes here, 2 drive-throughs and damage. Giancarlo Fisichella, Olivier Beretta look on and know that they could be getting an earlier flight home here.
Well, as I sometimes have said, but I can't repeat on air, it'll be a great disappointment to both drivers, Olivier Beretta, Giancarlo Fisichella. So it looks like it'll be maybe an early flight back to Rome, and Olivier, I assume he's still living in Monte Carlo.
Lorenzo Montempelli there as well, the other driver out.
Great disappointment.
If they can get the car back, it might be worth having a look at seeing if it is repairable, but they'll lose so much time that it's just a case of driving around for the sake of driving around almost.
Yeah, I mean, the danger is that what you see superficially is one thing, when you've had a pretty high-speed impact with the barriers, as the car has just gone through, there may be further damage, that's suspension, even parts of the chassis legs. But the Porsche, you can see the heavy damage to the right front. I mean, that was a major impact. And Kevin Estre, we saw when he got out of the car, limping away, and his right leg, which is his throttle leg clearly, was the one that seemingly flew around in the cockpit. His left leg would be against, there's a footrest in the car. If you push with that, that keeps you stable in the seat. But your right leg's on the throttle, so it's sort of free, and it gets, it hurts, make no mistake.
So a number of teams trying to take advantage of this now by pitting. Number 14 Jaguar going down through the pit lane. That was Stefan Ortelli to begin with in the Emil Frey Jaguar, working its way through pit out. And Kevin Estre's car, of course, at the top of the pit exit after that huge impact. But he's not covered himself in glory, has he? Ignore that incident, but the 2 drive-throughs in isolation were a bit ordinary. And then there is that to factor in as well, whether he was at total fault or not.
The 2 drive-throughs, to me, were extraordinary.
Because he shouldn't be doing it.
Shouldn't be doing it.
A man of his calibre, yeah.
I mean, okay, look, everybody can make a overrun, particularly on the exit of turn 17. Sometimes you do it because the car balance is a bit nervy, and you give yourself a bit more space to keep it on the road, but you've gone off the road technically by doing so. But Kevin's done it 8 times, penalised twice by the drive-through.
Well, Giancarlo Fisichella will be hugely disappointed, understandably. We will catch up with his feelings right now. He's with Dakota.
Giancarlo, do you think your car's going to be out of the race?
Well, I don't know. Our teammate Matoaki, he get out from the car. This is not good. I don't know what happened. It's quite frustrating after less than 2 hours to be there, and I don't think it's his fault. He was driving, and the guys was in who touched us was getting out from the pit lane, so it's quite unfair. Let's see if the car can be back, and then we'll see what the problem is.
Right, and we saw him limping a little bit. Do you know if the driver's okay or not?
No, the driver is okay. The driver is okay. He get out from the car with itself, so he's okay.
Okay, well, hopefully we can get the car back here and the driver safely.
Safety
we'll
car
see how it
procedure,
goes.
safety car
Hopefully,
procedure.
yes. Let's see. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we go safety car. You've just heard Alain Adon confirm that. Giancarlo Fisichella faces Vincent Franson next, the Belgian circuit commentator, as into the pit lane has come 28. So the Lawrence Vanthoor Audi brought in. Chief engineer Adam Hardy thinks it's worth a punt here. He'll have run so many run plans to try and work out where you can gain time, and here's one of those options. But because they'll have done fuel and tyres, of course, they've got to wait and wait and wait. This is the frustration that the teams are finding now. You are so well drilled, WRT particularly, in good pit stops, but then you've got to wait until the end of this delta time.
Absolutely, that 2 minutes 15 delta time. You might be done in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. You think, what a great job we have done. We've worked hard to achieve it, and then you sit there for 10 seconds. Otherwise, you take a penalty. Just interestingly to look at the Ferrari, obviously, clearly, it looks the less damaged of the 2 cars, but my concern will be was the damage to the barrier when the Porsche literally nose fronted into the barrier on the outside, and then the damage on the inside looks to be slightly less, but where the Ferrari is and just slightly ahead of the car, is that damage to the barrier that may need to be replaced, or is it sufficient that it's enabling the cars, once the safety car procedure is finished, to continue onwards?
So under full course yellow, everybody proceeds at the same speed. At the safety car, of course, it means that the cars are all going to bunch up, so advantages disappear, and that is a huge frustration because you can't overtake a wrecker truck in the pit lane, certainly there where it's so narrow, and people are being badly compromised, including 28 Audi.
This truck is not a wrecker truck. This truck is carrying replacement Armco barrier.
But it's compromised those cars
totally.
on pit exit, and one of them, as I say, is the Vanthor car, 28. Oh, dear.
Well, it's a 24-hour race.
Yeah, they might have lost, what, 5 seconds?
I mean, I understand a bit more. But, you know, the guy driving the lorry with all the spare Armco on it is struggling up the hill at 30 kilometres per hour, where everybody else is doing 50, and back at that point they can be doing whatever they like because they've crossed the end of the pit lane. So trucks everywhere want to pick up the Ferrari.
And the other trucks for the replacement Armco. Now, Arkin Aka is the team owner of Attempto Racing, and it's his Porsche that is that crumpled heap right there. Let's hear from him. He's with Dakota in the pit lane.
Akin, what's going on? We saw that massive crash.
Yeah, I saw it also on television. It was a big crash. In my opinion, I think we have really bad luck. Kevin left the track, left the pit, and he was on his outlap, and then he touched the Ferrari, and it was a big crash. I don't know exactly who had the mistake. In my opinion, Kevin can do nothing. He would just want to leave the pit, and normally the Ferrari must take care of that, but it's happened. Big shit. Sorry.
Did Kevin say anything on the radio after?
Yeah, he saw that he had a big crash and that he left the car. Hopefully he is well. I cross the fingers for that. You know, the car you can fix, but people. So I cross the fingers that nothing happened. But I hope that nothing happened with him.
The same with us. We hope he's safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there you have the Ferrari take on events, you have the Porsche take on events, and of course each says it's the other's fault. But
yeah, but the reality is, the reality is that the Ferrari was there. It was racing another car on the racetrack. The Porsche was rejoining the racetrack. The onus for me was on the Porsche. Whatever other reason, as a racing driver, you might say, well, he should have given me more room. Well, he also might say that Kevin Estre could have backed off momentarily and let those two cars continue. And it's a 24-hour race.
Exactly. And Arkin Arka's temper up. Apologies for his colourful language. He did apologise himself, but apologies for the fact that he is rather stressed about it. So apologies for his colourful language.
Nothing as bad as in tennis when you see them mouthing the words.
So we have the cars working their way through Blanchimont. The barrier work goes on. Now, of course, last year it was at the top of Écombe that we had barrier damage after 2 big hits there. It did take quite a while, so I get the feeling this is going to be a rather lengthy safety car period as well behind the Audi while that barrier repair work goes on. So, of course, with some having stopped and others not doing under this procedure, the order will be shuffled again. Number 8 Bentley right up now in 3rd place on the back of Frins. It's gained a place because 28 pitted, and of course all the gaps have come right down, but we might be a few minutes now. Robin Frins pits, so 28 did it a lap ago. Now that we're behind the safety car, I think you'll see a lot more of them bailing for the pit road.
Yes, I mean, the Bentley has been, in a sense, the Maxim Sully car, the car that was making up ground in the lead 3 cars. Now he's behind the 2nd place car. We have sort of 22 hours and 18 minutes to go, so you're within 10 to 12 minutes of what would have been your natural point. And in fact, the 58 McLaren also in so many of the teams deciding to take this option, get in, get the service done behind the safety car. We know how efficiently the 58 car, the Garage 59 McLaren team did in Paul Ricard in the 6-hour race when they very, very astutely got the car in, made that pit stop. We didn't even weren't aware of it because it happened so quickly. And that's how they actually ended up winning the race in Paul Ricard, the 6 hours of Paul Ricard.
So if you're wondering why some teams are pitting and others aren't, really, by pitting now, you're losing less time because the opposition is going slower. So although you have to be in the pits for that regulation time, or that regulation minimum time, you're losing less against these cars that are going at, what, a quarter, a third of their proper race pace. You're actually gaining by stopping now rather than under full green flag conditions.
Yes, and then, of course, this is probably going to be a reasonably lengthy safety car period. We don't know what damage was done to which barriers, but there was certainly damage to a barrier, and that just takes a certain length of time. It's not like they're on piece rates. They do it at the rate they can get it done.
Exactly. I think it's the outside,
almost coming to a stop at the top. So is there something now preventing the field from continuing? Everybody's come to a stop.
Oh no. And I bet somebody stalls here. These cars aren't designed for hill starts.
What's happened is they've been put into a single file, a bit like on a motorway.
Yeah.
The cones come out, and you just got to wait and go through single file. Don't overtake. That sneaky little Audi trying to get past the Mercedes.
And the two Emil Frey Jaguars resplendent side by side, and away they go again.
Because holding a car on a hill with a clutch, I'm going to say the 7 Bentley struggling to get, and again the Mercedes just having to wait, because an overtake in these contexts would be another penalty.
Exactly right. And Saab still queuing at the bottom of the hill. We're away now. There's no point trying to do a hill start. Wait at the bottom, roll down the hill, and then you've got the...
Hill climbs are a specific skill in motorsport. This is not a hill climb.
No.
This is...
A 24-hour hill climb is a completely different concept. So there in the pit lane is Francesco Castellacci's Ferrari. So this safety car period, as I suggest, might turn out to be quite a long one, given that we've got this barrier to repair. Away goes 55 now. It's another of the AF Corsa fleet. And there, look, you've got people rejoining into the traffic, and even under safety car conditions, that blue Lamborghini had to suddenly jink a little bit, so you can understand just why we had the incident in the first place.
This is sort of an anomaly. The cars that are coming out of the pit lane are filtering into the cars that are in line. Is that an overtake or not? Have they gained an advantage? Have they gained a position or not?
No, because they've already been overtaken while they've been stationary in the pit lane.
Yeah, but I would
so that's a notional overtake as well.
Well, I would still ask the question, is that considered to be an overtake or not? Or should they all have been held at the pit lane exit until everybody had gone through?
That's one to discuss as this safety car period continues. So we are behind the safety car because of barrier damage after a big impact between Kevin Estre and Ishikawa Motoaki. But let's look back at the highlights thus far of the 2016 total 24 hours of Spa, with the grid busy. Linkin Park waving the cars away at the start of the formation lap and cheering on the Linkin Park backed Mercedes Amaro Engel, one of 6 cars that had to make a 5-minute stop-go penalty early on in the race. Straight away, the lead was claimed by René Rast in number 28 Audi. Mirko Bortolotti slotting in behind, and Maxime Soulet ran third as the cars headed uphill for the first time. Phil Keane had a great view of the Team Parker Racing Bentley and Callum McLeod, but off the road on the first lap of the race, Marco Seefried, a punctured tyre being the cause of that. He was dug out of the gravel, came back to the pit lane after a full course yellow, under which the Mercedes made their 5-minute stop and go, losing less time relative to doing it under green flag conditions. When we went green, though, René Rast's car struggled away. It seemed as though it just wouldn't pick up. He jinked left and right, he lost the race lead, and he lost second place as well as the Ferrari of Alessandro Pierguidi-Pounds. Number 28 now, seemingly looking good once again, but it did lose a fair chunk of time at the start of that restart process. Phil Keane got caught up in the traffic. Ferraris trying to battle through Porsches. Back markers squabbling amongst themselves. Well, at the end of the first hour, in came Ferrari 50, having briefly taken the lead for a lap. Passim Laforas taking over, and with Lawrence Vanthoor at the wheel of 28. He was on the tail of Robin Frins, looking for a way past Mirko Bortolotti, who had stayed at the wheel of the leading Lamborghini. Frins made a really bold effort up the inside, going down towards the right-hander of Bruxelles. It was not to be, but then Kevin Est came out of the pit lane, cannoned into the Ferrari, and then into the barrier. The Ferrari off up the road, and a rather bruised and battered Kevin out of what was left of the Porsche. That brought out a full course yellow, and that in turn was converted into a safety car procedure because of the barrier damage that needs repairing. And this, the sight as the track workers, the marshals and frustrated Ferrari drivers stood and watched the field slowly making its way through. So we are behind the safety car. It has just gone 6:15 local time, so we've nearly had the end of the second hour of the race, give or take, and the cars working their way then now along the Kemmel Straight at much reduced pace. We are, as I say, about 12 minutes away from the end of the second hour. And there is the barrier in question. It's the outside of the Camel Straight that is where obviously S cannoned into it. So understandable, that's the bit that needs the reparation.
Yeah, I mean, it depends when it hit the barrier. If it was in the middle of the two mounts for the barrier itself would be probably bowed. But if it's hit on one of the mounts, you can actually damage those also. So that's a bigger job. But we're not seeing a huge amount of energy being expended up at that area. So whether they're just considering what is the best thing to do, or maybe they need further equipment to affect the repairs. You can see the crane that's on the back of the lorry with the barrier, the replacement barrier, but no activity in terms of getting that removed from the lorry, and the damaged barrier being removed and ultimately replaced. So Audi in and Audi out. So they're all content and happy with their job, it would appear. As we look down from the top of the Camel Straight, everybody now running at the mandated 80 kilometers per hour behind the safety car, coming probably slightly slower past the area of the major damage by Kevin Estro's Porsche. Don't think the damage inflicted by the Ferrari was particularly severe, but severe to the car, but not necessarily to the barrier a little bit further down from. And what was that all about? Oh, no, so it's just it's the way it's very deceptive, that shot.
Yeah.
Think, has he been off the track? Oh, no, just simply the camera caught it, and it's the grass all around makes you think, is that part of the racetrack or has he been off track? Again, drivers being slow down. There are people on track. We're trying to get this repaired as quickly as possible. If you don't give us some respect, I suppose you might say, then it's going to take a longer period.
Well, the fans on the back there have had a very good view of what was a big accident, and so as more and more of the cars cycle through a routine stop, the motor-based Aston Martin coming back out onto the circuit, and there you've got the field turning their way now through Les Combes. So the team manager of number 50 being summoned to the race director. That's interesting, because that's the yellow AF Corsa Ferrari of Pierre Guidi and Lathoris and Rugolo. What has that done to incur the wrath of the officials?
Well, nothing that so far we have seen, and I'm assuming that's in the hands of Passes Lathoris, Passes Lathoris, so difficult to tell. Looking back into the paddock here, Spa-Francorchamps, I mean, the place is absolutely just heaving. Bentley fans.
Marco Mappelli fans.
Yeah.
Catering
like
fans.
It. Yes.
That's more like it.
Indeed.
Yeah, get the ketchup on.
Yeah.
The Jupiler's finished.
It's all part of the family outing, and the viewing around the circuit is on these banks overlooking the racetrack, so you're looking down, and particularly in the area where this incident has occurred, it's a great place to watch because the cars are traveling really quickly. And for me, a fundamental essence of motorsport is looking at cars going quickly, not looking at cars going slowly round artificial twiddly little circuits. You don't do more than 90 miles an hour on.
Yeah, here it's a proper circuit where they can stretch their legs. In comes number 8 to Bentley. It was up into second place, but again, it's another team cycling through a pit stop, because again, you will lose less time by doing it while you are under safety car conditions like this. So just to say, will Bortolini immediately follow what Bentley have done, because having had the Bentley, which was directly behind the Lamborghini, make its pit stop, would they want to stay out any longer? So it blasts away and rumbles its way back into contention. And if you pit under green flag conditions, you lose, so one of the teams has calculated, something like 85% of a lap. If you stop under a full course yellow, you lose about 30% of a lap. So it's understandable why you want to stop now, not while we're in full green conditions. Clearly. And that's why more are giving up track position to do the stops.
And that's why I'm wondering, is Bortolini going to do the same thing? They did stop slightly earlier, I think, in the first round of pit stops. That's the 50, is that the 58 McLaren? 59 McLaren, Andrew Watson coming in to the pits. So the Bentley makes its way down to the pit lane exit across the line, and from here on it can go as quickly as the racetrack will permit it to do within the white lines that determine the pit lane itself. And this is, of course, the area where we saw all this issue somewhat 15 minutes ago now, where in fact the contact between the Porsche and the inside the Ferrari. So once again, will the Bentley just watch where it blends in? It's going to have to wait and slip in behind the Mercedes. Yes, it is the Mercedes, so no difficulty for that.
So we have the barriers being repaired, and the field continues to circulate under these safety car conditions. And there, 24, which is the Pro-Am Bentley, the Team Parker racing car. Ian Loggy has taken that over, so it's now a differing pace compared to Callum McLeod. Ian Loggy, I think, would agree that he's not quite as fast as Callum. There is number 8, Maxime Soulet, and of course the order all rather shuffled now that we've had yet another cycle through of the pit stops. In Lagarde, they're looking on from the Bentley garage, having done great things for Audi. Malcolm Wilson checking the data as well. Andy Soucek's got the radio on. And we are about 6 minutes away from the end of the second hour. David Addison and John Watson in the booth with Bruce Jones at the end, nearly of the second hour. Bruce, of what has been a pretty hectic race so far.
So, guys, what's been happening 2 hours in? What hasn't been happening?
Where do we start?
Shorter?
Yes.
Where do we start?
Bruce, you'll love this. Track abuse.
Well, I think it was barrier abuse.
It's ironic that the car that ultimately is responsible, in my opinion, for bringing out this safety car period had been in twice for a drive-through penalty. So a total of 8 times did it abuse it. I mean, I'm a big Kevin Estre fan, and particularly when he's in a Porsche. But anyway, at a given point when he was returning to the circuit and there were 2 Ferraris making their way up on the Kemmel Straight, he came onto the track, tagged the back of the right and rear of the Ferrari, and there is Mortellini in. So he just basically, he's followed 1 lap later. They really were forced to do this. Once the Bentley made its move to come in and do a change, pit stop refueling, they were forced to follow suit. So part of the tactic, you've got to watch what your competitors are doing. They didn't have to put in so much fuel, but of course, I'm just wanting to see that they will still have to wait for the 2 minutes 15 to clock by before the Lamborghini. If they're going to try and do this in 1 minute 55, it'll be a mega pit stop, I can tell you.
Well, they've got a certain advantage. Their pit is the first one when you come into the pit lane. It always helps to have either the first or the last.
Yeah.
You get a really clear run in if you're in the first pit garage. And as you can see, there's nobody in front of them. So just these little microseconds maybe say lovely that they didn't put down the rubber marks you could see behind the Huracan as it went underway. But Bortolotti has been so positive in the early stages of the race. Yes. But I think there's been a question about Lamborghini tyre pressures. I'm hearing Twitters up from the pit lane that...
yeah, we've heard something about Phil Keen's car particularly, but that was the Barwell car, different squad GRT. But it's interesting if they're all having it, isn't it?
Yeah, we will have to see. Of course, temperatures will start to drop, and that will change the whole field there, John.
Bruce, you talk about static tyre pressures or tyres overheating, and therefore pressures going up above what is the ideal temperature?
More of the latter than the former.
Really?
Interesting.
And it's not that hot. Obviously, they've had periods in which they've all been able to cool down as well with the safety car periods and the full course yellows. But I must say, having watched nearly the first 2 hours from the media centre, occasionally out of the window, Robin Freins, what a fine attacking driver he is. He's just always entertaining, and that battle he had chasing after Bortolotti, absolutely fantastic.
Now, who was behind the wheel of the Lamborghini? Did Bortolotti stay on board to do a 3rd stint, or have you seen a driver change for that car?
I'll tell you in a moment, because when he trips the timing beam, it will update if it's necessary.
And it'll either be Jerome Blake-Mullen or Rolf Inaken.
Yeah, so Blake-Mullen is the quicker of those two, isn't it? Rolf Inaken is not slow, but he's not as fast as the others.
Bortolotti has stayed on board. I didn't think I'd seen a driver change, but you always do want confirmation in case you were looking at the tyre change.
Well, it'll be his 3rd hour behind the wheel. That's a big, but of course in these conditions, if he is considered to be the quickest of the 3 Lamborghini drivers, some would argue that Jerome Blake-Mullen is a match for Marco Bertolotti, but to do 3 hours and try and establish a strong position, essentially, which is done really since the lights went out, let him do it.
Exactly so. Bortolotti really seems on top of that Huracan at the moment, and maybe also too they're feeling that wait till who knows how much longer this full course yellow is going to run. We've seen it looks like they've nearly finished the barrier repairs, but maybe they want to leave it to clear track time to put Jeroen in the car.
I think you're right about Bortolotti, and we were saying earlier on in the course of the race how, obviously, because they get contracted to a manufacturer, different people specialise
30 more
in
minutes
different
to
cars.
repair.
Bortolotti is one of those that definitely specialises in Lamborghinis, but he's up against the people that specialise in their own brand, so it all washes out fantastically well. Now, this is going to be another half an hour of safety car period.
Absolutely.
Because of the whack to the barrier. I said it was going to be a long time based on the evidence of last year. 30 more minutes, everybody.
Yeah, so that was obviously a big impact, but as I mentioned, it's not just the barrier, it's the mountings for the barriers that also can get damaged. There's one of the, see somebody else making a pit stop. So 30 more minutes for the track workers to continue working away. And, well, currently we've got Frank Stippler in the lead and the 26 behind it. That's
Greg Gill there, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, for the Santaloc Audi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Vanthor is third after his earlier stop. So he has now made 2 pit stops, whereas the others have made 1 pit stop. And so Lawrence Vanthor third. In 4th place is the Jaguar, number 14 of Albert Costa.
Jaguar.
And 5th place, the other Jaguar.
Is the other Jaguar. And then...
Well, here we have them on the screen. We've got Emil Frey Racing in 4th
right.
and 5th, as we said. Lamborghini GRT Grasser team, that's the one that was at the front of the race. Of course, with slightly going to tumble down the order now after that pit stop. Number 16, Row Racing BMW in 7th. What we're seeing is just the most fantastic manufacturer battle here. Yes, of course, the Mercedes have been pitched to the back of the grid at the start. We're going to have to see them at the bottom of this full 65 car result classification after 2 hours, but we'll see how they fight back through. But trying to gain back 5 minutes, you need everything to be lined up absolutely perfectly for 24 hours to claw anything like that back.
But you also need some of the opposition to have some bad
problems.
fortune, and that's
Yes.
certainly affected a Porsche and a Ferrari. Now, okay, they're Pro-Am cars. They were never going to fight for the overall honours, but some of those penalised Mercedes were Pro-Am cars as well. So, as a brand, they've gained a little bit out of that, but so much has happened so far. There's so much still to come. But this is going to be a fascinating race.
But down in the 30th, 32nd and 34th, a pair of the McLarens, and you expected them to be right at the front end, particularly the 58 car, but that had its problem when we came to Super Pole shootouts. And you have to almost wait for the final screen of the runners to catch the Mercedes. They're there from 43rd position downwards. But at the moment, it's very much advantage Audi at the moment, and we did expect them to see them come towards the front, and Frank Stippler leading the race, but we've just had that little pit stop sort out, John, and of course that will affect the way things are.
Well, we're coming up to the end of the 2nd hour of this 24-hour race, and from that message we received 5 minutes ago, one would anticipate the track might go green within the next 20-25 minutes, but you know, it's not an exact science.
Well, the key is the truck in the background as we cross the 2nd hour off.
Yes.
This race, it doesn't look as though it's doing much at the moment. Not so many people reconstructing. Maybe they're waiting for further parts. Maybe they need another post to mount it on.
Well, I think
that's the key. Looking at that truck, once that moves.
Well, look at the arm that's holding barrier or moving barrier from the truck to. But I suspect it's not just the barrier, and this is my concern. That it's where the car struck the barrier. Did it strike it at one of those mounting posts? You can see there's a large gap right now down in the barrier, and whether that was, you can see some of the barrier how bent it is, whether that's just simply where they've been removing it. And well, they're doing what they need to do. They'll do it at their pace. They're not under any pressure.
They've got to get it right.
Well, they've got to get it right, and it's imperative that any safety barrier, once it's been damaged in the manner that we just witnessed, that it is repaired. I mean, going back to Paul Ricard, we saw one of the Parker Bentleys have a big accident down at turn 4, and the barrier was actually broken. It was been 2 bits, but they just sort of pushed it back together in a bit of time. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I felt that was incorrect, but obviously that's what was done in that particular instance. Here, it's a different matter. Here is a much higher speed part of the racetrack, so there can be no compromise. It's got to be repaired and prepared correctly.
Entirely so. 65 cars started the race here at Spa-Francorchamps, 4:30 in the afternoon Belgian time. We've lost a few runners, as you saw. The Kevin Estre car was involved in that big shunt out of Radeon. But let's find out from Mercedes World. Car 84, Jasmine Jafar. Obviously a huge battle for the Mercedes to come from the back. Dakota Arnold is down with Jasmine.
Jasmine, with your 5-minute penalty, how well are you doing to get yourself back in contention?
It's going to be very, very tough. I mean, we gain almost 2 laps already with the full course yellows and the safety cars, but we have to still keep on pushing because you got to get around the traffic as quickly as we can. But our race pace is looking pretty good so far and consistent, so we just got to keep on going.
Dominique is in P43 right now, I believe, and he seems to be catching up, so that's all looking good for you.
Yeah, I mean, after the 5 minutes penalty, as everyone know, we dropped right at the bottom, and we're making our way slowly, but we're going to keep pushing, and we're not going to stop to the very end. So, you know, we're going to go all out.
So what's your target for the race? What would you be happy with?
Well, we got to be realistic, but a minimum of top 10. That's what I want to achieve at a minimum, but we'll see how it goes and how the race plays out. Weather is a factor, and also another full course yellow might be a factor for us as well.
And are you looking forward to driving yourself tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did a couple of laps in the night practice, and I enjoyed it. And I think later on tonight with everyone on track is going to be more challenging.
Well, let's see what you have in store for us. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, good news there. Dakota Arnold just told Yasemin Yafarda up to 43rd position, and while she said that, just went up to 42nd, so making huge strides.
Well, I mean, I don't know how he overtook under a safety car, but anyway, he was in 42nd place.
Another car, I think.
Okay, maybe a pit stop, of course. But one of the things about Yasemin Jafar, on Friday morning, when they were doing a bit of pit stop driver change practice, he did something to his back, and he was literally paralyzed with pain. And the medics and the physios in the Mercedes team, the HTP team, have got him back into fighting form, and looks none the worse for, you know, just a very small little moment. When one of the drivers in the Nissan team, I think was maybe Alex Buncombe, did something in his hotel, just moved to turn a switch off, and it went click in his neck. So it's very easy, if your muscles are maybe a little bit tight or a little bit cold, just to displace a vertebrae or something in your back or your neck, and that then you need to get the physios involved absolutely as soon as possible.
Now, drivers in the cars at the moment going around, they're frustrated, they want to get going. Each lap they come past, still the barriers being repaired. Their heads have gone down a little bit, but is this a chance for some of the teams to maybe put one of their less favoured drivers out in the car to use some of their track time in the car while the safety car is running around and the full course yellow is served? It's a chance to get one of your lesser drivers their track time completed, John.
I mean, the whole thing is, it is a frustration when you're stuck in a long safety car period, and there will be teams that will be doing the calculations and seeing not just where they are, but where everybody else is in relation to you. And if you do make a pit stop in a safety car line, where will you rejoin? And you don't want to rejoin at a part of the racetrack where then you're going to have to do a lot of hard work to get through.
Now the order's just changed again. Frank Stippler's just pitted from the lead of the race. The number 6 Audi has come in, so up into first position goes number 26, which is the Santalot Racing Audi Gregory Gilbert on board. Safety car still on the track. You can see the strip across the top of the screen. And Lawrence Vantour, Audi's absolute ace in the pack, 28, is running in second place now. These orders will change, but it means the Jaguars will go up to 3rd and 4th.
Yes,
Costa ahead of Hershey. Of
yes.
course, the whole order is juggling it, sorting itself out. People do have to make pit stops, and there is one of the Jaguars. And that's Hershey just ahead of the number 19 Grasser Lamborghini, with Barretta, Michele Barretta at the wheel of that at the moment. 5th and 6th, which effectively is 4th and 5th now, after Stippler has come in to make his pit stop. So let's find out what's happening down in the pit lane. And Wolfgang Reip from Bentley, number 8. Dakota Arnold has found him down in the pit lane. Let's hear from the Bentley camp.
Wolfgang, you're currently running in 22nd right now at the front of the field, so how's it going?
Yeah, so far so good. It's going quite well actually. We had just a small puncture on the front right, but we fixed it under a safety car, and now our engineers are working out what could be the best strategy to continue.
Are you feeling confident for the race?
Yeah, we are quite confident. I think we have a good team, a good lineup, a good car. So if we have no mechanical problem, I think we should be quite up there.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this number 8 Maxime Soulet was up to 3rd place and chasing down the lead 2 cars. So that puncture obviously whether they could accommodate it within a pit stop that they were scheduling or not. But that's what the engineers do. They've got to go back and recalculate all the strategy that they had already in place to accommodate that unexpected tire puncture.
Yeah, but if you get a puncture and it happens to be under a full course yellow, that's the time to be having it, let's face it.
There's
And
no
of course,
doubt.
as you said, they've had to throw the first scraps of paper away.
Yeah.
Now they're shunting their race tactics along. But certainly for the Bentley crews, number 8 and number 7 have been looking very strong. Stephen Kane is up in 7th place in number 7, that's the sister car, and as Dakota Arnold said, down in 22nd position after effectively that advanced pit stop for number 8 crew.
Remember Stephen Kane, the number 7 Bentley, it started from the pit lane at the start of this race, just 2 hours and 5 minutes ago. So, I mean, clever strategy, clever teamwork. That's what you get with these, the pro teams, the Pro-Am teams. A number of them are running at the same level of technology and sophistication. The AM teams are slightly different, not so much on that side, but more on the side simply of the AM drivers are not as attuned to the strategies that some of the pro drivers would be.
No, worth pointing out in that, John, Stephen Kane is one of those that hasn't made a second pit stop. The number 7 Bentley still out there, I would presume, coming in very soon. And Gregory Gilbert, leading the race in the 26 Audi, likewise has not made a second visit to the pit. So he will shuffle down the order. That should put the 28 Audi up to the front of the pack.
Yes, it will do. And it'll be the number 6 car behind. That'll be Marcus Winkelhock. So in the number 6, so in fact he's dropped down. He's gone into the pits. So it'll be the 14 car, that's the Emile Frey Jaguar. So again, it'll make its pit stop. So Marcus Winkelhock into the pits, and he's falling off the first page as he makes his way down the pit lane. So looking probably at another maybe 15 minutes before the track might go green, or we get some indication that the repair to the barrier just at the very bottom, there we are, of the Camel Straight has been fully and successfully repaired.
Yeah, well, the truck's still there. We look to the timing screens to give us any notification about how things might change. I don't know how long this message's been up. Number 55, team manager of 55, which is the AT Racing. It's the silver and red Pro-Am Racing Ferrari to race control immediately. He won't be the first team manager to go up there, and he certainly won't be the last through the course of 24 hours. When you start 65 cars on any circuit, there are going to be incidents.
Yeah, it's just sort of interesting under a yellow car period that you'd find your team manager being required to come to race control immediately. It may have been an infringement in a pit stop. That's the most likely possibility. But, you know, I want to see all these cars I don't want to see big gaps, because that then causes some frustration for those that are behind the car that hasn't managed to keep in touch with those ahead of it. So those are the areas where the frustrations for the drivers in the quicker cars begin to set in. So Com Ledegaard just seeing him going through in the McLaren 58. He's taken over from Rob Bell. That car currently seen as 11th, so it's made its 2 pit stops. It's the Gregory Gilbert car of the lead group that's yet to make a pit stop, as for the 19 and Stephen Kane in the 7th, and the 19 Grasser Lamborghini with
well, the BMWs will be going pretty well. Let's find out. Dakota Arnold has caught up with the 98 driver, Dirk Werner.
Dirk, you're currently 8th right now and looking very strong.
Yeah, better than we expected, to be honest. We had to fine-tune our car quite a bit during the practice sessions, and now obviously we got a bit lucky with what happened in qualifying and after qualifying especially. So we were starting up front, but now our car seems to be okay, especially over a stint. Our times towards the end of the stint were competitive, and now we're running 8th, but a few cars didn't stop so far in the safety car now. So I think in theory we're running 5th, and that's really good for us. I mean, if we stay there for a while, I think we have a good chance to be good tomorrow morning.
Well, it's looking really good right now. Hopefully all goes to plan. What's your target?
I mean, the target is clear. We want to stay in the race, make no mistakes, have a good car towards the end of the race when it's about to get daylight again, and then, you know, the end of the race, you have to be sharp and have to have a good car to push and run for a podium. That's the plan.
And when are you going in the car?
Now Nicky is doing a double stint, and then Steph is going in the car. He didn't drive so far, and then I'll be in the car maybe in 2 hours.
So you'll be at the night time, yes?
Sorry?
You'll be in the night time.
Yeah, depending how long the safety car takes now, but maybe my next stint will be in the night time, yeah.
Well, I hope to see you going strong in the night as well. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
So Dirk Werner there talking to Dakota Arnold, pointing out that a little bit of luck has come the way of BMW, certainly with the Mercedes sextet being shunted down from the very front of the grid, given those their positions moved back down, and then the 5-minute stop-go penalty in the pits. And just beneath us, one of Bentley's came in. That should be Stephen Kane, yes, just coming in from what was 6th position for his second pit stop. We said he was due one, and also the number 19 Grasser Racing Lamborghini, Michele Beretta, has brought that in from 5th, so everyone will shunt up towards the front, but still the number 28 car is leading the race, having just recently taken over when Gilles Vert came in at the start of that lap. So we expected 28 to get to the front, and it has done just that. So 3 of the top 6 in the pits. So it'll be Laurens Vanthoor leading the way, Albert Costa in the number 14 Jaguar second, and Pierre-Jonathan Hershey in the number 114 Jaguar, making it Jaguar 2-3.
Well, I mean, look, there they are,
have the F-type
on screen coming up the hill into Les Combes. So, I mean, a great effort by Emile Frey and the Jaguar team, albeit in a slightly out of sequence safety car procedure, but nevertheless it's nice to be up there and use the safety car to your advantage, and then when your time comes, well, you'll have to take your 2 minutes minimum 15 seconds, and we'll see where you then, but it's better to do it, as we've mentioned, time in memoriam, under a safety car
exactly so.
situation.
Just had a chat before the race. Obviously one of the Jaguars, the number 14 car, has been running for quite a while, the G3, but the 114 sister car has only just been built up. Christian Klein, we spoke to him beforehand, always the jokey fellow, the Austrian F1 racer, said, how many laps have you done? And he said, I've done 5 or 6, maybe 20. Has a laugh, but you know, the car is much better, we think, and for next season they're building up an F-type Jaguar. That will be really exciting to see.
But it'll not be four-wheel drive.
No. Who knows?
No, regulations don't allow it to be four-wheel drive. No, there's a four-wheel drive option with the F-type, which, if you live in Switzerland, is a very handy thing to have.
Wouldn't it just, if you're an uplander? If you're just coming in to look at the action, number 2 and 3 on the screens, the Jaguars for Emile Frey Racing, they are running in those positions. They've come up through the order. Of course, this race has had a considerable amount of shaking out in the first 2 hours. We've got still in a long period behind the safety car. We had a clash with Ishiaki Motoaki having a clatter with the much troubled number 77 Porsche, which was just coming out of the pits, and the pit exit it comes onto the track and you need to fuse just after the drivers have gone through Eau Rouge and come up the hill at Rédillon, and unfortunately the Ferrari and the Porsche clashed, and the ensuing damage hasn't been so much to the cars, they've been removed from the track, but it was to the barriers itself on the left-hand side of the track as the drivers go up the hill toward Les Combes. We're waiting for the repairs to be completed, so many of the teams are having to reconsider their tactics, whether to bring people in early, but right now, let's have a look who's leading. Vanthoor leading the race overall, but we have to go back to leading AM. We've got number 76 in Pro-Am, that's Juice, sorry, that's in 11th place overall, and looking down to AM, looking down the timing screen, trying to pick out where they come in. Number 30 appears to be leading the way in that class. Again, it's slightly jiggered around by people making pit stops, and that's the Team Parker Racing entry. Down on our 3rd timing screen, but really right now what we need to know is Laurent Vanthoor leading on home ground in Belgium in the number 28 Audi. Yeah,
I mean, that's the key, and in effect what should be in second place will be the car now handed over to Stuart Leonard, the car that Robin Freins did a brilliant job chasing down the lead Lamborghini in, and then Nicky Katzberg in the first of the BMWs. That will be, in theory, when this race goes back to green, should be the top 3.
Well, still waiting to see any sign on the timing screens as to when the safety car period is going to come to an end, but still, if you look down, the long shot taken from Les Combes, looking back down, still the truck with the big crane arm on the top, and it's still working away to replace those barriers. Now the Jaguars do make their pit stop. That's number 14 entry, Spanish racer Albert Costa. Looks like he's staying on board. Bit of steam away from the front of the car. In fact, it's just flare off the light, but a bit of steam being caught in that flare at the moment, as you would expect.
Also, there's an element of brake dust getting into the air as well, and that's what's causing the lights to sort of that slight flare. So brake dust, especially on the front. The brake wear is an issue here at Spa-Francorchamps. Pad changes, possibly disc changes for some of the teams, particularly those running at the front, where they are actually racing hard, whereas maybe further through the field it's a slightly more gentle form of race. Still all that work being carried out at the foot of the Kemmel Straight. Still a gap in the barrier where the damaged barrier, and I suspect the mountings for the barrier is being replaced bit by bit.
Well, let's go down to the Nissan area of the pits, and we're going to hear from Nissan and Sean Walkinshaw with Dakota Arnold.
Sean, you started 60th and now you are 37th.
Yeah.
You have made up a lot of places. You must be feeling pretty confident about this.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Unfortunately, we didn't get the qualifying we wanted, but we always knew that the Nissan has very, very good race pace. So we've just been being able to do very consistent lap times, slowly moving up the field, not taking any risks, and it's proving to be doing exactly what we want to do. And we're now, well, not exactly where we want to be, but we're in a step in the right direction anyway.
And when you go in the car, are you going to be able to keep this pace up? Are you going to be able to get a bit better?
Hopefully. Well, I did the first stint already, and hopefully when I get back in the car, I think after Roman and Matt, I should be able to go up even further. But you know, everyone's doing really well. Ricciardo's race pace has been good, and I'm sure we'll just keep moving forward and hopefully be on the podium.
And what are the track conditions like? How is it? It's getting pretty dark outside.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not as quick as we thought it'd be. You know, in warm up, you know, both cars were a lot quicker. Track conditions seem to be very, very good for us then. So hopefully when it comes to night conditions, it should be stronger for us.
Well, then it's looking all good for you. Good luck for the rest of the race. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Yeah, both the Nissans this morning, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, had found significant amount of time. But of course, now when you're in a field of 65 cars, it's going to take quite a while for you to get the gaps. And looking at the Bentley boys with their black, almost those flying spurs that they might be standing in front of. So a lot of work went into getting Nissans from a very disappointing qualifying position into a much better race pace context. So Sean Walkinshaw alluding to maybe they can make some progress in the nighttime hours and hopefully getting through the night when things are more relaxed, less frenetic on the racetrack, and then they can do a bit of good work.
Well, we heard from the pits, they think it's getting dark. There's still plenty of hours of daylight left, a good couple of hours, I'd reckon.
I mean,
it's
sort of
calming down a bit.
It's rather a subjective thing, getting dark at 10 to 7, but it will be dark here at 9:30, that is for sure. But what we've got, part of the contribution to the light level being slightly less than it was at the start of the race, is we've got a cloud base which is now sort of all over the high end of the circuit, which is pit lane, La Source, then down into Eau Rouge. Now, we're not anticipating any wet weather at this phase, but we're getting a cloud base that is certainly considerably lower than we have seen a little bit earlier in the event.
Well, it feels like we're having a replay of the previous Jaguar pit stop, but this is the sister car. This is 114 that came in from the better place, the two. Jonathan Hershey on board. He got as high as second place during the sequence. He too is now having his turn in the, well, not unique, it's one of two Jaguar G3 races developed by Emil Frey Racing in Switzerland. Looks great in its blue livery. Stefan Ortelli was a bit of a surprise move to the team this year, but he said from the outset what an interesting project it was. And I thought, are they just paying you a nice check? But he really seems to be getting stuck in. And don't forget, Ortelli has been for a good decade and more a works driver for Audi, etc.
Yeah,
he knows his stuff.
Well, he certainly has got tons of experience, won many motor races, and can make a great contribution to a team which runs at a totally different level than WRT do. And you're sometimes, when you're coming to the back end of a career, which, in fairness to Stefan, he's had a fantastic career, but maybe if the option to stay a further year at WRT Audi or part of the Audi family wasn't being offered to you, but you still want to be a racing driver, very often a family team, but it doesn't run in a way, a family, it's a very professionally run team. Why not? If you're getting paid to do it and it's a product that's making forward progress and you can contribute to that, have fun, enjoy it.
Yes, exactly so. I think every increment of effort he puts in, there's probably more of a contribution just simply because of his speed, his experience, and also for the team. They like, obviously, having someone who has that experience of being with a works team.
Copacabana. Well, I don't see much Olympics going on there.
Not yet. Good to see marshals out around the circuit. They have to stagger their performance out around the track as well. They can't be working 24 hours solid. We need them keeping sharp, so not too much barbecued food for them. But a big social event too, the Spa 24 Hours. A lot of hospitality out around the circuit and some brilliant viewing points. And looking quite jealous, John, as we look down at their little glass of something as the sun starts to set.
I mean, there are hospitality areas all around the circuit. The most famous probably is at the bottom of Eau Rouge, where you can sit and sip your glass of whatever it is, beer or wine or any particular beverage you might choose. And that is that particular building down at the foot of Eau Rouge. Very popular indeed as a hospitality location, and on top of the building that we're currently working in is a big area, again, for hospitality.
Yeah, a huge second-story deck, but I'd say the money would have to be on being on the balcony of that one at the foot of Eau Rouge as the cars come down at the start. Just one of the greatest sights in motor racing.
Absolutely no-brainer. Absolutely no-brainer.
Yeah, here's the other hospitality. They can see the cars coming into the bus stop at the end of the lap and then accelerating away up what was not the start-finish straight for us, but is the traditional start-finish race. But look at that view in the background. You can see the Ardennes forest, the track snakes its way through. Still one of the world's great circuits, Spa-Francorchamps. Up at La Source, the drivers obviously have to get it really tightly round to the right, and then they flow down the hill into Eau Rouge. It's maybe to some not the corner it was before, but looking on the opening lap, how close the cars went over that yellow and red curbing in the background, how close the barriers to give them a wider line into Eau Rouge, and of course then you get through Eau Rouge, immediately followed by Radillon. Really one corner, John.
I mean, the changes to Eau Rouge are considerable, largely in part because of the safety concerns, but because what might one call progress. If you go back to, let's say, Eau Rouge or Spa-Francorchamps in the days when the original circuit was in use, that was a much more acute left and then turn to the right up the hill. Nothing like today in a GT car, let alone in a junior single-seater, where you just squeeze the steering wheel and the car darts left, then right and up the hill and over you go.
Well, of course, on the original circuit, the straight down to Eau Rouge went behind where the current pit buildings are there. It was a much different line, but of course then with the point where they met the stream, they had to turn to the left and arc their way around it. So always in a circuit that's been going for nearly a century, there will be changes. But to me, the essence of Spa-Francorchamps is still as it ever has been. Safety car, though, it would be great to see that coming in. Still waiting for this safety car period to come to an end, and the barriers on the exit of Radillon being rebuilt on the left-hand side of the track. Another driver has been invited, or not the driver, the team manager, to stretch their legs and walk up to race control. That is the team manager of the number 57 Black Falcon Mercedes, started by Hubert Hout.
Yeah, that's actually, I think he's probably been up there already. It's occurred a few moments ago.
Well, pace to know your way to race control. You'd rather not have to go there, but you don't want to lose any time by not knowing which stairwell you have to walk up to into the control tower. As Jaguar's back out of the circuit, obviously after their relatively recent pit stops, it's dropped them some way down the order. In fact, trying to pick them out, they've fallen from second and third to 30th and 31st positions. But those pit stops are now done. In fact, all of the crews have brought their drivers in for the second pit stop. Hasn't been a driver change for some of them. We've still got several of the starting drivers who stayed on for a bit, but in fact they have now pretty much changed.
Well, we're now roughly at the period when that 30-minute period, the time required to effect a repair to the barrier has passed. So we're waiting to see if there's any further information coming from race director to give us an indication what point we can expect to see this race get underway.
Well, people in the grandstands desperate for it to do so, much as they're enjoying just watching the cars go round. Let's just run you down the order. Lawrence Van Toor leading by 6.5 seconds for Audi from another Audi, the number 2 Audi, with Stuart Leonard taken over from Robin Freitz in that. Number 98 is in third place, another second down on the second place car, and that Dirk Werner had handed over to Nicky Katzberg. Passin Latourus has taken over the number 50 Ferrari, the bright yellow Ferrari, well, pale yellow Ferrari, in fourth place. And McLaren, haven't talked too much about them in the race, but Comey Ledogar is now up into fifth place, took over after Rob Bell started off, and they've got Shane Van Gisbergen, the Kiwi racer, still to come. Leading the way in sixth place overall, leading the class in Pro-Am, is Maxime Juice. The car was started, the Kodak-sponsored IMSA Performance Porsche was started by Patrick Pilet, handed over to Maxime Juice. He is leading the Pro-Am class from the Lamborghini 666 from Barwell Motorsport. John Minshaw has taken over. That was started by Phil Keane. And 78 is in 8th place overall. These cars, he's the third driver in the Pro-Am class. 78 is Barwell Motorsport's other car, and Marco Mappelli started that, and now Marco Attard has taken over to complete the top 10. Duncan Cameron, also running in Pro-Am, has taken over the 52 Ferrari that was started by his longtime racing partner Matt Griffin. And number 11 makes it 5 Pro-Am cars in the top 10 runners, and that is Giacomo Piccini has taken over there, and that was started by Michel Bronicheski, who won the GT Sports Club race earlier today.
Yeah,
That's the top 10.
He's been a very busy weekend. In fact, I think he's won 2 of those events. So, oh, hello, there we are. I mean, we're just looking around the circuit, and these are
finding
People
happy
have made their way here, maybe for this afternoon, stay for the evening, watch a bit of motor racing, go away, enjoy a nice dinner, come back for the nighttime hours. It's always magical to be at a racetrack, 24-hour event. The lights, the sense of just listening and watching in the nighttime is...
It's a very different world.
It's a very evocative aspect of motorsport.
Yeah, an entirely different world. And then if you're brave enough, you want to come back. If you're a photographer, you have to twitch around and come back for dawn, because their sunset shots look so they're going to be hampered rather by the cloud base we have here, which is relatively low. Certainly had a beautiful day this morning. And people tucking into. What would you have in Belgium, John?
Well, I mean, I'm delighted to see, the first time I've seen it all weekend, somebody having a lovely, lovely feed of Frites Jimenez.
A little carton would be quite nice if it was delivered to us, one each up here with a little pot for some mayonnaise. Oh, not a burger that size, sir. That's the size of your head.
Oh, well, anyway, everybody's enjoying themselves. That's the most important thing.
And also, people have their favourite vantage points around the circuit at Spa-Francorchamps. Lots of people being called now to race control, so that will be a busy stairwell.
Well, I'm assuming, as we saw with, I think it was car 57, it was a pit lane infringement. But I just wonder, 74.333, which appears to be back in the race after going off on the opening lap, and 75 to report to race control immediately.
Well, at least for one of the Trues, that's two of their cars, both of their cars. That's ISR, that's the Salicada team. So the Czech team will have their boss going up the stairs fairly shortly. Two for the price of one.
And we just continue our merry way, yet again, behind the safety car. As everybody, more or less, now the barrier work looks to me like we're seeing progress, because all the barrier looks to be in place. There'll be a final check of all the locating bolts and the nuts, that they're fully tightened. And then once whoever is in charge of the remedial work is satisfied, the lorry and its crane will return to its station.
Well, the crane has just swung round, so this is very good news.
Absolutely.
Just to keep you up to date, the ISR Audis are running 13th and 14th. They're the ones where the race control wants to see the team manager. So they're really pretty well placed. They've worked their way towards the front. Certainly started rather further back down the grid, but it's still number 28. It's Audis 1 and 2 as the safety car period rumbles on. It shouldn't be for a great deal longer, but it's Laurens Vanthoor from Stuart Leonard, 28 from 2, and then Nicky Katzberg in 98 completes the top 3 at the moment. That's the better placed of the road racing BMW M6 that have made such a splash in the championship this year. And just to keep you on your toes as to who is now leading the AM class, you have to look down to 37th position, and the number 49 crew has worked its way to the top. That's the Kaspersky Motorsport Ferrari. It was started by Rui Aguas, the Portuguese racer, and it is now in the hands of Alexander Moisev. So the Russian driver has taken over from the Portuguese, but again, this order down towards the tail end as people are making their pit stops under the safety car, it's going up and down. But what is not changing, we have two Audis at the front of the field. Laurens Vanthoor from Stuart Leonard. It was 6 and a bit seconds. It's gone up to 7.1. Should stay fairly level behind a safety car, but the odd half second, well, that's palatable.
Just to remind our viewers, when we left the circuit after Superpole, we had 6 Mercedes in the top 6 spots, and we assumed it was going to be a Mercedes whitewash. We came in this morning and we were greeted with the news that there have been issues over technical areas, and all the leading 6 Mercedes were penalised. They lost their times. They had to start at the tail of the top 20 shootout. But more meaningful was that 5-minute stop-go penalty, which really hurts. And the teams, 4 of the 6 made their stop at the end of the first lap. The other 2 did it a little bit later, and they're now fighting a battle to come up bit by bit by bit, and they'll get there. But of course, can they make up? In this case, they're probably just a lap down on the lead cars. Those lead cars are going to be lapping at the same pace as the top 6 cars would be doing as they make their way through. So it's a hard situation for those 6 Mercedes cars that were penalised.
Well, it was very late last night it happened, John. I think I just about approached the cheese board after dinner when the news came through, when I managed to get my hands on the news, and they thought this morning about whether to protest, but they left it too late and they couldn't protest the decision.
It sounds like you're about to have a piece of the stinking bishop.
Cheeky man. But now, we just talked about 74 to 75 and the 333 Ferrari. Why are they being called? Well, it wasn't too many people working on the car. Speeding in the pit lane was the answer we've just heard, so that one is clarified.
Lawrence van Voor into the pits. Car 28, so that's a pit stop just before we're about to have this race once again go green, we believe.
Well, waiting for green. So I think it's probably time to have a little recap of what happened in the first hour and a half of the Spa-Francorchamps 24 hours. Let's have some highlights. The grid was absolutely packed, jam-packed with people wanting to look at the cars. The Belgian flag brought down above Eau Rouge. The crowd's enormous out around the circuit as the tension mounted, and LinkedIn, the pan, were delighted to be here. But here is the start, running down the hill, and it's Audi leading the way from the front of the grid. It was René Rast being pushed very hard by Mirko Bortolotti, and it was all clean at the front. A little further back, a little bit of rubbing. One of the Bentleys getting in the thick of the action there, but then almost immediately we lost Marcus Seifried. Was he pushed? Did he tumble in 333 Ferrari? And that brought out the safety car. What you're seeing at the end of the first lap is 4 of the Mercedes. We talked about how they had to start from the back of the grid. They had to serve that 5-minute stop-go penalty, decided to serve it immediately. Eventually, Seifried's Ferrari was released from the gravel, but it was a question of who was going to make the better restart, and we still don't know what happened with René Rast. Why was he so slow away? Did he get confused? Did he press the wrong button? But what happened? It released the Lamborghini into the lead of the race, and all changed at the front, but then Lamborghini came in. That's Mirko Bortolotti. You can see the black flashes up the wing, but it was so super close down through the pack. Everywhere you look, with 65 cars starting this race, it was going to be very, very tight indeed. At number 50, Ferrari ran very well with Alessandro Pierguidi. He came in to make his pit stop, and all the time we had the Audis starting to make their presence felt right onto the tail of the number 16 Lamborghini, and Robin Freitz in the number 2, super aggressive and really, really making the Lamborghini racer stay on his toes. And then unfortunately the second safety car period was caused. The blue Porsche number 77, Kevin Estre, already had some drive-through penalties, came out of the pits and was clattered in a collision with the number 53 Ferrari, with the Japanese driver Ishikawa Motoaki on the outside. Fisichella distraught in the pit lane. Quite clearly the damage would be too great for that car to continue, but the damage was even greater to the barriers than it was to the cars, and that's enforced a really long safety car period as day starts to turn into evening. And what we're having is the Audis at the front of the field. Everyone's been able to make a pit stop, a driver change, under the full course yellows. Nobody's able to gain an advantage out on the circuit. There is a speed limit that they have to stick to, but the gap between first and second, well, it's all changing as we come out of the highlights with Leonard leading the race. In fact, that has just changed because Katzberg's just taken over, because Leonard has just come into pit the number 2 Audi. So even as we speak, the order is changed after 2.5 hours of racing, but it's Audi working its way to the 4. And the main story, John, is how long is it going to take for those Mercedes to work their way up from the back of the grid? They've all had that 5-minute penalty right on. That's effectively 2 laps they've had to lose.
I think the first thing that really will be, are we going to have any further safety car interventions? That's something we can't control. The next thing will be, what will the weather do? Is it going to have a bearing on what we're right now on a dry track, slightly overcast conditions, probably very good conditions in fact for racing. Then through the night, that's where you get into that sort of that really the meat and 2 veg of a 24-hour race, where you need consistency. Some drivers are good in the night, some are not so good in the night, so you want to have all 3 drivers in your Mercedes, and we're talking about right now, equally matched, that they are comfortable and can get the maximum from their car. And then of course just simply the reliability factor. So a lot of things that are slightly out of your control, some are in your control, and you've got to make sure you've got control of all of them.
Exactly so. So BMW leading the way, Nicky Katzberg, the Dutch racer, at the helm of that. Comé Ledegaard, the French racer for McLaren, now up into second place, and just looking to see if they've just come into the pits, because we had Maxime Juice rising in the Pro-Am class up to 4th place overall. Stuart Leonard just came in from second place in the number 2 Audi. So the order is going to change again at the top, but look at the screen. Down at the bottom end of the top 40, we have the Mercedes. These were cars, they filled the top 6 grid positions after Super Pole last night. And then, of course, the ruling came through. Something amiss, or adjudged as amiss, with their ECUs not complying with how they had been at the point of balance of power homologation. That will probably rumble on a bit, but you can see 3 more of them, 2 from AMG, ACA ASP Black Falcon and the second Black Falcon car down in the 50s. They've got a long way to go. They're still trying to unwind the deficit that they had with a 5-minute stop-go penalty served either at the end of the first or the end of the second lap. But we've got 21 and a half. We've got 2.5 hours gone. We've got 21 and a half hours remaining of the Spa 24 Hours. Conditions are dry. It's looking like a fine evening here. The sun not likely to show its face again, but it's still relatively bright. But we've had a lot of changes, John Watson, and we've lost a couple of cars so far after those clashes. Certainly AF Corsa 53 Ferrari, and still not listed as a retirement, but you do feel that will have a DNF next to its name, much as the 77 Porsche has.
Well, the guarantee of the Porsche's going nowhere, but what is almost a guarantee is that the work has now been completed. The lorry with all its replacement barriers is being readied to be returned to its station, and I would imagine maybe within the next 5 minutes or so we may have a chance to see this race go green again.
Well, that would be great, and just doing the housework. Car number 14, team manager to race control immediately. That's one of the two Emil Frey Jaguars, and car number 90. Bit of variety here. Let's go to AF Corsa. That's the dark green one, not the car driven by Duncan Cameron, but the one by Ezequiel Perez Companc, Rafael Jamaria, who started it, and Alessandro Bolsan. Who knows as yet, we don't, what their particular offence was, but presumably something in the pit lane, because running around behind the safety car, unless you overtake someone, which obviously you're not allowed to do,
no.
It's unlikely they've had a problem.
And inevitably, it's a pit lane infringement. It might be something as, almost might say trivial as a wheel that's been taken off has managed not to be held securely by somebody in the pit lane and it's rolled somewhere. There's a myriad of things that can go wrong. Everything is monitored. It's very strictly controlled. So we will maybe find out in time as one of the BMWs makes its way up from Eau Rouge. The climb up Eau Rouge, again, camera tends to flatten things out. But that's a bit like the ski run of the Hahnenkamm. When you look out of the box at the top of the Hahnenkamm, it's that steep. I mean, walking up it, you've got to lean forward. It is really, really steep.
You can always judge a steep slope when you have to do exactly that, lean forward. Otherwise, you lose sight of it. And of course, you can ski in this region, up near our hotel, near Ovifac. There's the Alpine ski. There's lots of cross-country skiing in winter here in the Ardennes. And car number 14, a little birdie has whispered in our ears that was a pit stop offence, but not for speeding. So there are a myriad of things you could do wrong. Too many people, particularly there at the first pit garage on the old pit garage. Imagine if you let a wheel go there, that would roll the whole way down to join the people in the hospitality.
Quite often what happens, a wheel which is being removed from a car slips and it rolls somewhere it shouldn't. And those might seem trivial or minor offences, but the regulations are very strictly adhered to, and it is the responsibility of the team to ensure that no part of the car which has been removed should become an errant part, which may have been the case we're talking about for car 14.
But for a good portion of the crews here, their pit garages are on the downhill stretch, and certainly that's an issue. If you're at Silverstone, your pit is on the level. If you put a wheel down, it's not likely to roll away unless it has its own momentum. But here at Spa, you can put something down perfectly static and it can roll on down. I still prefer the old pits. They have more character, but they do have necessarily a few problems associated with them.
Those are the issues that you have on what I would call the heritage pits. But having known that you've got the potential problem, you cover it. You make sure that those situations do not arise. So it is, as I mentioned, it's incumbent upon the team to ensure that any part or all parts of the car are at all times within the control of the team.
Along with all the other things over a 24-hour duration, plus everything that's happened before. So a lot to be thought about. But the good thing is the garages are quite well spaced out by sharing this 65-car field between two pit areas. There is space to work. In the old days, before the upper pits were built, you used to have all the cars in the Spa 24, 2 or 3 in one garage, and that used to lead to problems if someone came in and they needed work in their garage, and then one of the other cars in the pit pulled in front of them just as they wanted to come out. Used a bit of argy-bargy, but anyhow, right now, plenty of space for the 65 crews, but we do feel we're now reduced now to 63 crews after the 53 Ferrari and the 77 Porsche eliminated from proceedings, and still cars are coming into the pits. We saw one of the Barwell Lamborghinis coming in. That was number 666.
Safety car in this lap.
And the safety car will be coming in this lap. You can see the bar at the top of the screen, 21. 21 hours, 18 minutes and a half still to go, and the green truck with the crane has moved away. Hopefully it's got a point at which it can be withdrawn from the track, because it won't have time to get back to the pits for sure if the safety car is coming in this lap. So let's just recap. Leading the race on this final lap before the safety car comes in is the number 98 BMW with Nicky Katzberg on board. McLaren 58 in second place, Komi Ledegar, and leading Pro-Am in third overall, Maxime Juice. And I'm being joined in the commentary box just in the nick of the time for the safety car to withdraw by Andrew Marriott. Welcome, Andrew. It's all been going on in the first 2.5 hours. John's going for a little lie down. Obviously, it was so exciting. He's worn his batteries a bit low.
It certainly was. It's great to be with you, Bruce, here in the booth. It's a bit like a racing driver is not the first starting driver. You really want to get going. And yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? The first hour, everything, no problems at all. Second hour, we had that huge, great accident. Estra did go into that barrier very hard backwards. Tending to think that accident was maybe 70% Estra and 30% the Japanese guy. But anyway, we've got racing again, thank goodness. And well, a bit of a surprise, I suppose, with the leader at the moment.
Well, quite so. In fact, it's been quite a hard race to call, and over the past 15-20 minutes behind the safety car, we've had numerous pit stops. They have rejigged the order. The fact it's going to go green again for proper racing as we ride, looking on board through the windscreen of one of the Nissan GT Academy Team RJN Skyline GTRs as they run down the hill waiting for that signal. But again, you can see at Spa-Francorchamps, you can already see the marks of war. You can see the skid marks where people have run off into the gravel on the outside of the corner at Malmedy, and then they go through the corner where Michael Schumacher went off years ago.
Absolutely.
Backwards, super hard, a corner that doesn't really even deserve a name, and that is the point of it, just by the ice cream van by the looks of it.
Well, we've got the guy leading the race who won the race last year, Nicky Katzberg, in a BMW. The Z4 is gone, of course. Now we have the M6, a bigger motor car, that also racing this same car in America. And the safety car lights are off, and we'll be racing again. Some people coming out of the pits there, Bruce. That safety car will be peeling off.
Yeah, still got a short distance to go. There's the 52 Ferrari running in second place in Pro-Am, but more importantly for Duncan Cameron at the wheel at the moment, he is in fourth place overall. The car ahead of him a little bit further up the track is Maxime Juice, number 76 Porsche with the Kodak livery, running in third place overall, leading Pro-Am. Komi Ledegar in the 58 McLaren. That's not the one behind the safety car. That is the one with the different livery, of course, the number 60. 50 years since the Bruce McLaren Racing Team logo was last used. Yep. And you can see the Kiwi on the roof.
Green flag.
Now we go green, and the safety car has pulled off, and let's see who can make the win, the drag up to the first corner to La Source.
Yeah, as they say in America, green, 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 and off they go. And look at the McLaren attacking either side of the BMW, but he has to fall in line behind the row racing car, very similar to the M6s, which are run by Turner Motorsport in America. So well, this is an international car.
It absolutely is, but there is no way that Komi Ledegar wants to stay in second place. But Nicky Katzberg is nobody's fool. We all know that. Very quick, almost getting airborne as he went over the top of Radion, clattered the curb on the left-hand side, and he's pulled away. But look at the Porsche behind with Maxime Juice, very handy driver. He's got a great tone. Seems to have plenty of grunt with the Porsche as he chases off after the rather sleeker McLaren up the hill. But Katzberg has, about half a second clear as the Porsche really, really pushes Komi Ledegar. And Duncan Cameron dropping back a little bit, and behind we see the number 8, Maxime Souley. He's got to come in soon. He's been running since the start of the race. He's in the Bentley, and he's up into 7th place. But a great restart there from Katzberg. Good challenge from Ledegar, but it came to nothing.
Yeah, let's check out, Bruce, where that second Bentley is. And, of course, started from pit lane after that problem with the fuel pump. But look at this battle here. You were saying it, what a magnificent circuit it is. And I had a count the other day, I've been to 120 odd different race circuits in the world, and this has got to be up in the top 2 or 3. Just unbelievable setting, hugely challenging racetrack.
Brilliant to come and watch racing at, and it's been captured by some fantastic camera angles here to just show the diversity of corners. We're seeing a few of the drivers, Duncan Cameron letting the 75 Audi come through behind. That's in fact the battle for 5th place now. Henri Acide is up into 4th. And Salakada in the 75 Audi has made his way through there. So Duncan Cameron, gentleman driver, if you will, getting more experience with every year. Races almost every weekend he possibly can, but he couldn't keep those behind. Wasn't trying to. He's not in their class.
Duncan, of course, he sold that business, moneysupermarket.com. I think he copped about 165 million for 47% of the business. So best of luck to him. He loves his racing, understated guy, and of course got great drivers with him like Matt Griffin and Aaron Scott also in that car.
Yeah, in fact, it's a four-driver lineup because they've got Riccardo Ragazzi, a late signing for the crew, and still cars come in. You think, why are they going into the pits when we've just turned green? But look who's coming in. It's our top three. It's our top four. In fact, it's Katzberg, Ledogar, Maxime Soule, Juice and Salaquada. Sorry, Maxime Soule has continued.
And just to catch up on that Bentley story, the number 7 car, Bruce, which started late with Abril at the wheel, is now in 19th place, come up right from the back of the field with Vincent Abril.
Well, it'll be sorting itself out, but really,
like Park Lane at rush hour.
Well, it actually looked like the Super Trofeo race. Lamborghinis are everywhere you look. But I sort of asked the question without answering it: why are cars coming in now? It seems a madness, but there's a reason for it.
There must be a reason for it, but I don't understand what it was.
Well, it depends how they rolled the dice earlier. Well, the stint length is a stint length, and they have to stick to that. If they decided it was going to be a shorter safety car period, they would have made that change early on.
Yeah, that's it. It's stint length.
It probably isn't, but we'll pretend it is, shall we?
Well, I think it is. But it's caught them out of it, hasn't it?
It has totally caught them out. They're having worked their way towards the front end of the order, and you can see how tight it is behind. Look for the Bentleys making their way forward. Vincent Abril in the number 7 is, well, he was 19th, he's 18th, but with several others in the pits, he'll be up into the top 10 or 12 very shortly.
Now, interestingly, the Bentley will go into the lead. Who is calling the strategy in the Bentley pit for the first time?
Lena Gage.
Lena Gage, of course, triumphs at Le Mans with Alan McNish, etc. One of the best strategists, one of the best engineers in motor racing, and of course, I think you'd already argue she's the best woman engineer in motor racing. She has just joined Bentley. She did Le Mans for Audi, has gone over to Bentley. Of course, it's all in the same family, and a new challenge for her.
Exactly so. I think it's a refreshing challenge for her. 24 hours races, no mystery to her. Jaguar in the thick of the pack down there, number 4 Audi jousting away, but that's just outside the top 10. That's 12th position that they're fighting over at the moment. But for Lena Gade, she's got a smile on her face this weekend.
Yeah,
I
she's
think
using
after a while at Audi, she's done it many times, had huge success, but the pressure to succeed almost increases each year. Building success on success, never an easy thing to do, but certainly I think we will watch the, thank you very much, the number 8 Bentley in 3rd place overall. He's now up to first. Number 1, because of course Katzberg and Ledogar came in from ahead of him to make their pit stop last time around. So Soule, he's got to come in soon. He started the race. He must be due in for sandwich and coffees very soon indeed. Another car coming in from leading its class.
And talking of Bentley, of course, we got the Team Parker car right up there in 12th place at the moment. He's just come out of the pit with Ian Loggy out the wheel.
Well, he's going to be going down. In fact, since he came out of the pit, he's already very politely let the quicker drivers through. Yes, of course, he's been shuffled towards the upper echelons. He's going to work his way back a little bit, but he already cut his teeth this morning. He was in one of the support races, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo event.
And he made a lot of money doing making cardboard boxes. Can you believe that?
Where did we go wrong, Andrew?
So, moving up into second now, of course, is the 59 car. And that's the McLaren of the Academy boys there.
Yes, all changed. Not so long ago, we could have squinted at the screen and thought that was 58. That was Komi Ledogar. He's just made a pit stop. Just want to point out, fastest first sector of the race, now we've been released to green flag racing, is Maxime Soule. You feel that car is probably running on vapour. It must be right at the end of its fuel load, so as light as it could be. But for Maxime, racing on home ground in Belgium, obviously delighted to be at the front of this race, and he's just trying to press as hard as he can. He'll be handing over at the end, most likely, of this lap to, well, who's it going to be? He's got a choice of handing over to Andy Soucek, we saw in the back of the garage, or Wolfgang Wright. We heard Wolfgang talking to Dakota not so long ago with a bit of a smile on his face, and I think clearly with very good reason. The number 58, sorry, that's the 59. McLaren up into, we just talked about him, up into second place, but look how many back markers. He's just gone past the 80 racing Ferrari.
Alex Fontana at wheel, I think had 3 seasons in GP3, didn't he? Alex got a lot of experience now, but a different experience in this particular race for him.
Yeah, and not so far behind is the number 99. It's when you get 2 cars and then you get their sister cars up in the thick of the running. The 99 car needs to get past.
Just look, and I just have to say I had a cup of coffee down there half an hour ago. who is in third place, Bruce. Third place overall. The number 44 car, Oman Racing Team. The only Aston Martin in the race. And that car, of course, run by Dave Bartlett of Motorbase.
Yeah, well, for Dave Bartram, he's really busy this weekend. He's got his cars out at Snetterton in the British Touring Car Championship tomorrow. Busy all over the place, but he runs a very, very good team.
Yeah, it's a big anniversary for him at the BTCC. Is in his 300th race or something like that. But he says, this is the place I want to be. This is a really professional, not that BTC is a professional. Look at this.
But look at that side.
Everywhere.
Here we are, we're nearly 3 hours into the race, 20 cars covered by the space, about 3 seconds at Spa-Francorchamps. What a great, they're not all, drive through Penalty car 27. You never know if it's the driver on board who's been the problem. Valentin Asclot started the race, but a full course yellow violation. You sort of feel with 63 cars running behind the safety car, someone is going to get it slightly wrong. So unfortunately for the 27 Santelot Racing Audi, it was their turn.
Yeah, it's a French team. Valentin is the young gun in that particular car. Is he still at the wheel? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think he is. He can't. He started the race. Mind you, Maxime Soulet started the race. He's just set the fastest first section of a lap. In fact, last time around, it ended up in being the fastest lap of the race. 2 minutes 19.917 seconds. But I think whoever started the race must be due a time to pop in and get out of the car and give their teammates a go. Not all the cars have 3 drivers. Some will be starting with 4, but all the top runners are running with 3.
And now in the 99 car in third place is very quick Austrian Philipp Enger. Lots of success in Porsche Carrera Cup, Super Cup. And Philipp Enger there in third place. But Bruce, I got the feeling we're just coming up to 3 hours and this race hasn't really developed a rhythm yet.
No, it's been really upset, and again the order has been jiggled completely about according to when the teams have decided to bring them in under the safety car. But what we're getting is not just Fontana, he's nearly 15 seconds down as Maxime Soulet pulls away in the number 8 Bentley. Bentley have to come in and make that stop, but Fontana 15 seconds behind. But then just talked about Philipp Eng in the 99 BMW in third, but he's being pushed very hard indeed by the driver who knows an Audi, Marcus Finkelhoff, for the Team Phoenix entry. So he's up to 4th. And leading the way in Pro-Am is the number 44 crew, and that's the Oman Racing Team, Ahmad Al-Hati.
And they use that sponsorship very well. I've travelled on Oman Air, but they use it very well.
Let's have a look at the pit stops, how many they've taken. You never know. All the front runners, the top 4 have taken 2. Aston Martin have taken 3. Good thing or bad thing, but running fifth, so clearly it's worked to their favour. It depends what they did during those pit stops. And also the Emil Frey 114 Jaguar, that has made 3 pit stops. It's the sister car that's had the pit lane violation. So for the 114 crew, which is the new G3 racer, they're smiling.
Interesting story there. Emil Frey, who's basically the grandfather of that operation, imported Swallow sidecars into Switzerland. What did Swallow sidecars become?
Oh, is it Jaguar?
Is it Jaguar? Yes, indeed. So they've got a huge association with the Coventry company going back, well, getting on for 80 or 90 years. So it's great they're running these Jaguars, and it's absolutely wonderful to see them near the front there. We saw them right at the front during the pit stop shakeout, but there is no Jaguar involvement in that, of course.
No, but here we have in 7th place overall, Jonathan Hershey. That's in the new G3.
A lot of people would see Jaguar officially in endurance racing. They've decided to take the decision to go with Formula E. I absolutely understand why they've done that. Lots of cutting-edge electric technology there. But I'd like to see Jaguar doing that and doing some endurance racing.
Yeah, I like the and element of that. We very much feel that it would just be right. And so next season, when we've got the F-Type being raced by Emil Frey, at least we'll have the right body shape there. And apparently the race director is going to announce some penalties on air.
Stop and go penalty to car 63, 56 and 00 for driver stints. They did not respect the driver stint.
Okay.
Then drive through to car 90, 14, 75, 74 for wrong pit stop time.
Well, seven teams are having their ears clipped there.
And one of the most significant ones there, of course, is the Black Falcon 00 car of Yoma Berman, Berg Schneider, and Mario Engel going into this race. We'd say they were one of the favourites, and it's all just going so horribly wrong for Mercedes. We'd never expected that dominance, of course, of qualifying before all the problems with the ECU put them further back, but other things are happening to them. It's just not their race.
And other things are happening out on the circuit or not on the circuit, because the lead Bentley number 8, we knew Maxime Soulet had to come in at some point. He has reported into the pits to make that pit stop. That's the third pit stop. There is the Bentley. Now, pit stop time, we've got 4 drivers being given a drive-through penalty for the wrong pit stop time. Can you explain that, Andrew? There is a minimum time you are allowed to serve.
And you have also been given a bit of leniency of 1 second here or there. I think it's 4 or 5 times, and they're obviously outside that window. I don't know if of course they've got to work out how long it's going to get to the actual end of the pits. Maybe they're just getting that wrong. We know there's penalties. It'd be nice to know how much they're over. Were they 3 seconds too short? Were they 4 seconds too long? That we haven't been told. There's the number 19 car then, and that's the GRT Grassa Racing Team.
That's
Lamborghini.
Andrea Piccini took over. Lucas Stoltz started the race. That's working its way towards the front, up into 6th place. But the teams have been given extra sort of flexibility on their pit stop, so they don't try and rush them this weekend.
You're just reading the exact rules, I think, now, Bruce, just to clarify. I think it's a good idea.
I'm just trying to find the particular...
Meanwhile, while you did that, there's the 0-0 car that we've just heard has got a penalty. One of the leading Black Falcon cars. Remember, of course, tremendous success for them at the Nürburgring 24 hours in a race that had a change on the very last lap. And here is the 8 Bentley coming in. Andy Soucek, Austrian driver. Saw him racing quite a lot in the UK at one time in Formula 2. And a lot of single-seater experiences, Andy Soucek.
Yeah, coming out of the pits. Now, let's just... One of the new regulations, I'm reading from the rules here, sets a window during which a car cannot leave the pits after stopping, which means there is now a 20-second period during which the car cannot rejoin the track. The upper limit is measured from pit in to pit out, and therefore is different for every race.
Yes, indeed, and we've been given a time. But McLaren 58 have been having a good run, and now we can go down to Dakota with Shane van Gisbergen. Let's hear from him now.
Shane, I'm trying to figure out why the McLaren came into the pits, not on the yellow, but on the green.
It's all normal. I think give it another 20 and you'll see it all shake out, but I don't really know what's all happening. I've sort of been sleeping a bit, but yeah, ready to get in soon.
Well, I'm sorry to wake you up. So Com's in the car right now, and we believe he's doing a double stint?
Yeah, that's right. It was only really a short one under safety car, so he'll do this one, then I'll get in, and I'll probably double into the night. So, yeah, pretty quiet couple of stints to get us started. I think the race has been pretty calm and good, but yeah, looking forward to it.
So how does this double stint stuff all work? When do you go in the car? When do you come out?
Well, we can only do 65 minutes or 70 if there's a safety car. So, yeah, 65, and we'll do that, maybe even triple in the night. So, yeah, see what the tyres are like, and it'll be good.
Are you feeling confident about the race?
Yeah, I think so. I think with all the parity adjustments overnight, I think everyone is quite close. And you see the lap times, everyone's in a small window. It's really cool. So looking forward to the battle, and hopefully we just stay smooth, keep out of trouble.
Well, I'll let you go back to sleep, so you've got a lot of work to do later. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Righto, thanks.
I know that Kiwis are always understated, but he must have been sleeping. He didn't think much had happened in the first couple of hours of the race. Must have been fast asleep in the paddock.
Flying Kiwi there. Shane, big guy, and obviously made his name in the Aussie V8 series. It was in it for years, and then suddenly, I think it was 3 years ago, there he suddenly appears at the Daytona 24 in an Alex Job Racing Porsche. Never been out of Australia, New Zealand before. Suddenly he's racing. Somebody tipped Alex Job off that he was a really good runner. I think he'd done a bit of Porsche racing in Australia as well. And suddenly he's there and he's really fast. And obviously he'd done that for 3 years. He did the race again this year, actually, for Alex Job. And seem to remember he was second in class. Might have won it, actually, in GTD. But Shane is a real talent. It's great to see him. And McLaren, of course, very clever to pick him up.
Well, again, the Kiwi connection going back all those years. In fact, the whole team pretty much was Kiwi in the early days. Howden Ganley working as a fabricator, etc., along with all the other mechanics and Kiwi crew from top to bottom.
Absolutely. With a couple of exceptions, Bruce. A couple of Americans in there as well.
Oh, yeah, Tyler
Alexander and of course, the wiener himself, Teddy Mayer. But yes, when they first started, nearly all Kiwis. A lot of Kiwis in motor racing still in Europe. Row racing switched to BMW this year. And Jens Marquardt, the boss of BMW Motorsport, often see him at DTM races. He's here this weekend. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich from Audi, we've seen him here this weekend. It just shows you what an important race it is these days. This race, of course, one of the oldest 24-hour races in the world, started 1 year later than Le Mans 24. And all the other 24-hour races around the world started much later than that. This is one of the two granddaddies of the endurance racing scene.
And it's great to see it back on the pedestal where it should be. At the late 90s, it dropped down. You had all sorts of bizarre things, but not, cars you wouldn't even think were racing cars were entered in this race. But now looking at it with this 65-car grid, the manufacturers and the top bosses from the manufacturers all turning up here, they don't want to miss this.
Thank you, Stefan Rattel. His dream to put it back as a major race. It's exactly what he's done, look.
And for BMW, they're way out clear in terms of wins. They have 22 wins in the Spa 24 hours. And the next up is on 7th, and you've got...
Do you know, an extraordinary thing, Bruce, with this race? Very few victories by Porsches.
Yeah, in fact, I can tell you how many. 6.
6.
They're equal third with Ford. Alfa Romeo took lots of wins in the 1920s, and that's where they got their marks. But BMW, once they started winning, they haven't really stopped. And they're way out front on 22 wins in this race.
Another extraordinary thing. Look at all the...
Windscreen wipers. What does that mean? It means we're at Spa-Francorchamps, just as it got brighter about 10 minutes ago. Of course, if you look out of one window, you get a very different weather forecast to if you look out the one at the back of the commentary booth, which we do not have. We're looking west, and we've got the sunlight. But
and everybody.
You don't turn up without some rain clothing to Spa-Francorchamps.
And we can see it from the commentary booth now. Here, this rain has come in very quickly, and it's really going to come down. And this is going to throw another huge curveball into this race.
We like curveballs, though.
Just going very quickly to my thought about not many Porsches have ever won this race. So you look at Le Mans and all, I don't know how many British guys have won Le Mans over the years. A lot. Only 6 Brits have ever won this race. Tom Walkinshaw was one of them.
Gordon Spice?
No.
Did Gordon not win? He did win.
Walkinshaw, Win Percy won it way back in 1948. Leslie Johnson and St John Horsfall. Neville Hayes joining us later. He'll know all about them. And the most recent Spice won it in 78. And the last winner, Steve Soper, in 1995. Haven't had a British winner since then. Extraordinary, really. Could we have one here?
Well, we've just heard from the 58 McLaren crew, and that's got Rob Bell on board. Now, Marcus Winkelhock leading the way, but look at this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Super close, and the Jaguar in 3rd place with Jonathan Hershey on board. That's 114. He's just gone past the number 19, Andrea Piccini Lamborghini, and he's giving chase to the 26 Santilok Racing Audi. So it's Audi's 1 and 2, Jaguar 3rd, and a Lamborghini in 4th place.
Very good runner, Swiss driver Hershey. A lot of experience. My old mate Johnny Molan raced with him in a Lotus at Le Mans a few years ago, and he was extremely impressed by him. And he didn't expect to be, that was the point. So, in the lead then, at the moment, the number 6 car. Audi Sport Team Phoenix.
Well, look at those wipers going there. Now starting to go a lot harder. So, is this Jag number 3 on the windscreen, 03, the 114 Jaguar? It's made 3 pit stops to its rivals 2. How can that happen and still be at the front end? Well, it can happen because they did it under the full course yellow right at the start of the race.
Look at it.
Now, how brave is that? Up into 2nd place past the 26 Audi, the Santilok Racing. Blue and white Audi push back. So these are big, big moments. It might not shape out once the order has been rejigged following these pit stops. But right now, Jaguar is grabbing every bit of glory it possibly can. And the 3rd driver who's going to take over 114, it was started by Marcus
We have rain
Peltola,
at some marshal posts around the circuit. The track is declared wet. The track is declared wet. All cars must turn on their lights. All cars must turn on their lights.
So there's a message, all cars must turn on the lights. I was just about to say Christian Klein will be the 3rd driver. There he is, about to take it over. as soon as the 114 Jaguar is brought in by Jonathan Hershey. And for Christian Klein, a driver who really enjoys his craft, he's only done a handful of laps in his car, and as you can see on that close-up shot in the second place Jaguar, there is a lot of rain on the bonnet. We've heard the race director describe how the track is declared a wet track, so your lights must go on, otherwise your team boss will be going up the tower.
So unlucky, Christian Klein. Obviously had his Formula 1 career, then got the drive with Peugeot, of course, as a factory driver at Le Mans and other WC races. And then remember, Peugeot suddenly chopped that programme, and Klein was left, and they chopped it very late, left high and dry. Since then, had quite a little success in LMP2, but it really did make his career very difficult. He is a good man to put in this car now. But Bruce, is that rain going again?
It's very hard to tell. We can try and see at the various points on the circuit how much the windscreen wipers go there. Stephen Kane and Guy Smith, the Bentley boys, probably quite glad that they're there right now. And Stephen Kane has changed into his civilian clothes because he's done his first stint, not going to be back in the number 7 car for some while because Vincent Abriel, there is Vincent now up into 3rd place, so a little bit nail-biting for the Bentley boys as the rain comes down. It can always throw a curveball, but certainly Abriel is now taking the race to the Jaguar in 2nd place. Jonathan Hershey still on board. Hershey due to come in for what would be that car's 4th pit stop.
Winkelhock leading this race, as of course he led the German Grand Prix, that famous time when he chose the right tyres and everybody else didn't. I think he led for about 5 or 6 laps.
Well, when I first started coming to the Spa 24 Hours, it was Markus Winkelhock who was one of the stars, and if the conditions became horrible, his advantage grew all the more. If it could be foggy, he clearly had a very good memory for the circuit because he used to be way quicker than anyone else in the night when the fog came down. But right now it's the moment for Marcus, not Manfred. And let's have a little look at the replay. It's slightly wet. This is the place change for 3rd coming into the bus stop, and that was very easily done as the Bentley goes past the Santalok Audi and waits to get the traction down and give chase of... did Guy Smith enjoy it? Oh, only slightly. But he'll be proud. The Bentley boys on the charge. There's certainly lots of guests here at the circuit lapping up what Bentley can do as it takes a tilt at what would be its first victory.
Let's take a very quick memory lane check. 2007, when Marcus led the German Grand Prix in a spiker of all things, and chose the right tyres. He led for 4 laps. At one stage, everyone else came, because it rained just after the start, he'd anticipated it, everybody else came in to change tyres. At one stage he was 33 seconds in the lead, and then they stopped the race because it was pouring with rain, restarted again because he was gobbled up. That was his big Formula 1 moment of glory. But of course he has won the Nürburgring 24 hours since. Good runner, Marcus Winkelhock, and son of course of the great Manfred, who did famous things around here in Porsches.
Yeah, massively great things. And there's the famous race when he and James Weaver were 12 seconds faster than anybody else in the fog, but James only did it by hanging on to Manfred's tail lights.
So Winkelhock has come into the pit, I see from our timing screens.
So Jaguar leads the Spa 24 hours.
Jaguar had led, and John Watson will be coming back. He'll tell us about his famous drive of Jaguar in the 1,000 Ks round this race. And I'm not sure John led the race, but Jaguar, great success to the Tom Walkinshaw racing examples here. And Bentley in 3rd place. There's the number 6 car, leading car in.
Yeah, Winkelhock should stay on board. He's only done the 1 stint so far.
And that rain has gone away again.
You said John Watson would be back, and he's as quick as the Jaguars. Jaguar leading the race now. John's super quick. He's had a quick pit stop.
John, you can nod because you're not quite on the mic yet. Did you lead here in a Jaguar in 1,000 Ks? He's thinking about it.
So Jonathan Hershey, there he is. 0-1 on the illumination on the windscreen. The 114 Jaguar leading, but being pushed very hard indeed by the number 7 Bentley. Vincent Abriel, the Monegasque racer, really seeing what he can do. Dropping away in the background is the 26 Audi from Santalok, at the moment being driven by Mike Parisi, started by Christopher Haase. 5th place overall is the number 19 Lamborghini, Andrea Piccini. He's lost a few positions and he's being chased by another Audi, but it's the 28 car, Nico Muller on board, so they've rotated all of their drivers. Rene Rast started the race and was so feisty early on. Lawrence Van Tor assumed the lead of the race, and now the number 28 Audi into 6th place.
Bit of housekeeping, more team managers called up to race control immediately, including the number 38 Antonelli Motorsport car. That's not really in the hunt. We also got the 132 car, apparently, team manager to go. That's the Largo Racing. That's an incredible story, Largo Racing. Roger Largo and his team of Aussie V8 drivers there. Roger hoped to do the race last year, then he had a huge crash in Australia. So this effort of bringing the Lamborghini over from Australia and competing here had to be put on hold for 12 months. So John is back in the booth now, as we said, with headset on, and just had a quick fuel stop. And John, I'm just saying that I feel this race hasn't quite developed a rhythm yet, and of course all of a sudden we had that little rain shower, and the rain shower just didn't really develop, and now we've got, I think, let's watch that Nissan's a bit, is that smoking a bit? A bit of debris I think he was pulling from that car. Matthew Simmons, also we're talking Australians, very talented young Australian Matthew Simmons in that particular machine. Great to see such an international field here. We've seen journalists here from Australia, we've seen journalists here from the United States. So, still in the lead, the Jaguar.
I mean, I think the whole thing's amazing because it has been a sort of fragmented race so far, and that very long safety car intervention to repair the barrier just literally a little bit further up the road than we are now. The exit of the pit lane is where the contact occurred. There's the brand new barrier, quite a big strip of it. But here, following the Nissan all the way down the straight, but just eking closer. Is it able to get up and alongside and dive down the inside? Yes, it can. Look at the big puff of brake dust that comes through. So the 666 Demon Trees Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini gets through. A lot of brake dust coming from the Nissan as it hit the brakes on into Lake Coombe. But the rain, and you can see the wipers and the McLaren being in operation. But walking back here, you could walk between the raindrops. It wasn't rain. There was rain falling, but it wasn't rain as we would know it here at the
but John, it was very briefly. I looked out of the box and there was a lot of rain. It lasted for about 2 minutes, but that is typically Spa. It could be pouring down here up the other end of the circuit because it's not so bad. Now the circuit is not as long as it was in days of yore, but it can be raining one place and not the other, just like the Nürburgring.
Yeah, just looking at the Bentley, a close view of that left front corner. There's been contact at some point. So the 7 Bentley, just looking to see where it is down through the timing and scoring, because having just returned from my supper. So it is Vincent Abril.
This is a battle for the lead.
Still in second place. So where that contact occurred, I obviously didn't see it because I was away, but I mean, I didn't imagine I would at any point be saying the battle for the lead of the 24 Hours of Spa 2016 would be between two iconic British brands, Jaguar and Bentley, but that is the situation. Up the hill and over the top of radio, and Vincent Abril in what you would have to say is the more likely to be the quicker of these two cars. But Emile Frey's Jaguar team have done a remarkable job. This car is running natural pace, holding its lead.
I don't know what their budget is with that private Jaguar compared with the car that's chasing it. Probably a quarter.
Well, I mean, obviously there'd be a massive difference because M Sport is a fully backed part of the Bentley company. So Malcolm Wilson and his team up in Cumbria, apart from providing incredible Bentley race cars, do also successful Ford rally cars, and it's a part of that design studio that they have up in Cumbria that makes this Bentley such a good race car. And one of the interesting issues of the Bentley is it's got the ability to ride curbs. Now the curbing here has been a very contentious issue because we've seen lots of drivers getting penalised for abusing track limits. The Bentley, one of the benefits of driving it is you don't actually notice as much as maybe other cars that you are riding the curb. So you've got to be aware that there are limits, and the limits are getting four wheels over these white lines that define the racetrack. So the Bentley drivers essentially have got a slightly easier time. And if you compare, I mean, for example, watching Mirko Bortolotti at the start of this race in the Lamborghini, I felt that the Lamborghini wasn't giving Bortolotti such an easy ride, as particularly when Robin Freins was giving a really hard time for many of those laps. But watching the Jaguar again, it looks like it runs the curbs actually pretty well, which is great because you want a car that's consistent, gives you confidence, and right now, the Jaguar's it had a 0.8 of a second of a gap as it came across the line at the end of lap 67. It's probably within that, maybe it might be a second or so, but it's maintaining its pace. The last lap it did was 2 minutes 22, and in fact to pull out half a second, it's now at 1.3 seconds ahead of the Bentley Vanson. The Brill lost somewhere in this lap half a second. Maybe that was due to some of the traffic that is around the racetrack and the ebb and flow that you get. Sorry, the ebb and flow that you get lap upon lap upon lap around a racetrack. And we're not seeing a lot of traffic at the minute for these two lead cars. They're able to run at what is their natural pace. Maybe in another 5 minutes they'll catch up to a group of maybe 8 or 10 cars, and then all of a sudden it just turns upside down.
Nico Muller, though, is in the 28 Audi at the moment. He's the fastest man on the racetrack, I think. Just turned a 2:22.4, and quite a bit faster, second or so faster than people in front of him. Having said that, Hershey's just done a fantastic 22.574.
And that's true pace from the Jaguar. And we've seen that pace from the Jaguar at different points throughout the season, but we haven't seen it at the front, and that's the big difference. It's running at the front, it's running at a pace which is probably as quick as anybody and quicker than most. There may be some people through the field on given laps because they're on fresh tyres and whatever, or maybe lapping a little quicker. There's the 50 Ferrari. That was a car past this Lastoris still behind the wheel, is up in 6th place. Its last lap was at 2 minutes 24. Almost 2 seconds of that slower than that of the Jaguar.
And right up in 4th place at the moment, we got one of the Pro-Am cars, John. That's the 11 Castle Racing machine. And at the moment, at the wheel of that car is... let's check this out. I think that's Giacomo Piccini at the wheel.
It is Piccini, yes, it is Giacomo Piccini. So this is what you're going to get. You've got the two lead cars running in clear air right now. At some point, they're going to catch up to this group of 6 cars. They're all running more or less at the pace dictated, not so much by the Porsche, but by look at the Lamborghini, the two Lamborghinis, the Mercedes as well. And it's the Mercedes who's looking to make a way through. The Lamborghini's going to be trying to do the same thing. So make hay while the rain falls or the sun shines. It doesn't really matter. So looking to see where the 88 Mercedes has got itself up to. It's up in 35th place. So that's Ranger van der Zande, the Dutchman behind the wheel. And I mean, he's pushing hard. Look, he's trying to find a way past the Lamborghini. He comes up one side, dives down the other side, and you're not meant to switch position. Soros looks to find a way up the inside rather cheekily, trying to take advantage of this battle going on as the 7 Bentley comes in. So Vanson de Brill is into the pits. Fuel hose attached, and having a look at something that they're allowed to make changes to things in the cockpit. So the Soros gets up the inside, as it comes into the source. And the number 2, Stuart Leonard, it's up now in one position higher, up into 8th place, behind the number 1 Audi with Dries van Thor behind the wheel.
So Jonathan Hershey in the lead, taking part in 4 Le Mans races in all sorts of different vehicles. He's done a number of WRC rallies, Hershey, as well. He's one of those rare all-rounder guys, and he's even finished second in the McGann Trophy a few years ago. So he's driven all sorts of racing cars.
Jaguar team preparing for a pit stop. So Ranger van der Zande manages to clear some of the traffic that he's been struggling with, and he'll be happy with that, because all you do is you get bogged down. You just got to wait your moment and then sort of cherry pick your way through. So 98 BMW.
John
is Nicky Katzberg in the level.
Yeah, he had a little punt at the lead of the race when I first took over the commentary. Just looking down the field for the first Mercedes-Benz. Is it the 86 car? I believe it is.
Yeah, so I've got Matt, Gertz in the car. That was the car that was on pole position.
Yeah.
The yellow Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. And that did a 1:17.6 or something in the shootout. I mean, by way and far the quickest lap we've seen over the entire weekend. So I don't think we're going to see that kind of pace from any of the Mercedes in this race, but they will certainly be very effective. Great race car. The thing with that brand new AMG GT3 Mercedes-Benz, there's the lead car now into the pit lane, is it's a really good long distance car, particularly on this sort of circuit.
Well, the back end stepped out a little bit as he came in.
Yeah, I mean, just you try and maximise the amount of time you can gain by coming as quickly in the pit lane up to the point where you've got the timing line, and at that point you've got to get down to 50 kilometres per hour, and any speeding above that will have a penalty. Mostly it'll be a drive-through penalty. So the Jaguar makes its way up, all the way up and then all the way back down the other side.
They, of course, are in the heritage pits, as you have named them, which I think is a very good name. But those pits for the teams are about a third of the size of the new Formula One garages that we sit on top of, basically.
Yes, I mean, that's the old, it's been there really since, I mean, I would say in the 50s when those pits were essentially created, but looking a very, very anxious number 7 Bentley back out, still Vincent Labril on board. There's the lead Jaguar into the pits, almost at the bottom of the heritage pit lane, so great effort indeed.
Absolutely.
So what will be interesting to see is where will the Jaguar come out and where will the Bentley come out. So that was the battle that we were watching. Will there be any give or take? Will Bentley make something up on the outlap? Can Vincent Labril drag something out of the car? There it is, making its way now back up the hill, having exited the Blanchimont. That really fast right-hand corner, hard on the brakes, turns right. You want to keep the car as tight to the right as possible, then swings back to the left. So the wheels and tyres, again, the brake dust coming from the front of those Jaguar wheels as the new, or the replacement set of tyres. This is going to see a new right. Is that a new rear going to go onto it? I don't know what the...
This is tough for some.
They're going to lose the lead because simply the Bentley has just done a better job. But, you know, what Jaguar are doing is remarkable. There's the Bentley now coming down, so it will have taken back that position. It's not actually for the lead right now, but when the whole series of pit stops washes through, then we will see that Jaguar is still losing time. So probably that pit stop's going to have cost them in total something near to 20-25 seconds.
Yeah.
And hard to make it up. But what a great effort by the Emile Frey team to be in that position, to lead the race and lead it on pace.
Swiss driver out of the car, Austrian driver into the car, and still look at these tremendous racing, just inches between so many cars. There's one of the Mercedes. We never would have expected to see them so far back. How many twists and turns has this race had already? How many more will come in the future?
Well, I mean,
it's early days yet.
It's very early days indeed, but what you're going to see is that little bit of unexpected rain that fell. I mean, it wasn't what I would have called heavy enough to have any concern. Drivers would have seen it on their windscreens. They would have had their wipers in some cases operating. Some would have just let the natural air flow over the car or clear the water from the screen. And certainly in the pit lane or in the paddock where I came from, while there was a sense of dampness on the surface, it wasn't what I would call wet, and there was no need for anybody to have any concerns. Just be aware that there has been an element of water falling. But as you point out, Andrew, around the 7-kilometre racetrack and the difference in elevation change that exists, you can have the high point getting a shower and the low point being dry, or vice versa. And it is the nature of these. This is a traditional, old style road circuit. I mean, the roads now are not used by the public any longer. It is a permanent racetrack. But up until about 8 years ago, most of the roads, with the exception of this inner part of the new circuit, the battle going on with the Nissan and the Bentley, and that's going to try and get through as quick as possible. But this was a public road up to about 7 or 8 years ago.
We understand that the Bentley number 8, which is really going quickly at the moment with Andy Soucek, is going to get a penalty for pit stop infringement.
Matthew Simmons in the Nissan getting all out of shape with the Bentley coming alongside. He certainly was getting a bit of a hurry up as he came up through Eau Rouge and over the radio. And there is the Bentley 8. It has got just ahead of the Nissan, but it is going to have to suffer a drive-through for a penalty. We'll have to find out what that is. And again, you know, the teamwork is so structured and so rehearsed that it only takes that one little minor hiccup and everything has to go back and then back into the pits.
As I said, John, while you were out of the booth, of course, now calling the strategy chair is the famous Lena Gade, who masterminded Alan Manish's win at Le Mans with so much experience. So I'm surprised they're making an error like that, but of course it could be it could be speeding out of the pits or something like
It
that.
may a myriad of things, and of course she is there just to orchestrate. She is the orchestra.
Yeah, but
she's the conductor, if you wish, but trying to find my right adjective. And but all she can do is rely on those people that she's conducting to fulfil their obligations. But she has done an amazing job, particularly in Le Mans and in the long endurance events, which Audi, with their LMP1 product over many years. We see more rain falling now, coming down into Pujo, and that's not a place where you want rain to fall, because the track, it's a quick corner. You put a lot of load on the car in the early part of the corner. You let the car float out to the exit, and you bring it back in. So the wiper working pretty vigorously on the McLaren. And normally, I would say the rain isn't sufficiently heavy to worry about your wipers, but who am I to judge sitting here in the commentary booth as the McLaren makes its way through. So back onto the Camel Straights as the lead car in its class comes up the hill, number 11. That's one of the Pro-Am cars, so that is in second place overall right now. And the Castle Racing, Bonzeschi, Bronacci, Rizzoli and Giacomo Piccini. So it's Giacomo Piccini behind the wheel, so leading the Pro-Am category. And down the hill through the left-hand corner. And again, what the camera really doesn't give you an indication is the degree of drop that exists from the point where you come onto that short straight down into Pujo. One of those corners you always feel you could attack it a little bit more aggressively, but are never really fully confident unless you know you've got really fresh tyres and a car that is 100% with you.
So in fifth place at the moment, the second of the Audi Club Team WRT cars. I think Stuart Leonard is at the wheel now, and Stuart Leonard, most of his racing has been done around the Nürburgring. He's one of those guys that's come out of the VLN series and doing a decent job here.
Well, he's been involved with the Audi WRT program this year, sharing with Michael Meadows. And you know, they are a part of the team. They're not the front line, if you like, in terms, but you know, they're in a super professional operation. And if you're going to try and do a series like the SRO GT Sprint and Endurance Championship, you can't be better placed. Because the product is consistent. It's a winning product. And along here with the Ferrari 488, this is the 2016. So this is the sixth. So let's look and see what is going on. And the Mercedes is all over the shop. Coming up into La Source. You've got the 89 Mercedes, the 44 Oman Racing Aston Martin, and all behind. So very busy up at the Source. And this is the problem for the lead car. They will come up against a group of cars with the 76 Porsche making its way. That's the IMSA Performance 911 GT3R. And I say that with pride. So coming.
I'll get the lights flashing.
There's the Jaguar back out again. So that is the 114. Well, that's the 14, I beg your pardon. It's the 14 Jaguar. So that's the sister car with Lawrence Frey, Stefan Ortelli and Albert Costa. That's down currently in 12th position. So it comes across the line. One of the Parker Bentleys behind. So again, it's not a part of the M Sport Bentley team racing a Jaguar. It's one of the Parker Motorsport Bentleys racing a Jaguar.
So currently second in the Pro-Am class. Joe Osborne at the wheel at the moment.
Yeah, Joe in the Demon Tweaks Barbell Motorsport Lamborghini.
And they normally run the British GT Championship, don't they? I mean, it's a bit of a step up for them. It was great to see them right up there. They're doing an excellent job in that Lamborghini. It's new to them this year.
Last year they were running for a number of years. They ran BMW M3, X3, whatever. Not the X3s, the people carrier. The M3 Sports, and they decided at the point they had to make a decision that BMW hadn't given them sufficient insight into the new M6 GT3. So they looked around, and Lamborghini have a great product. I mean, you just have to look at the Lamborghini Trofeo to see just what a great job they have done with this Lamborghini Huracan, and that's what they've decided to go with. So they're delighted with what they have. And the Demon Tweaks car, 666 Joe Osborne behind the wheel, currently in 10th place. Of course, that's the car Phil Keane started. As we look at the 58, Garage 59 McLaren, and in 8th place So Koum Ledegaard behind the wheel of that. And this is the one car in the race I'm slightly perplexed about, because we saw phenomenal pace, gets up the inside on the approach up to Blanchimont. But they started, I think it was 10th or 12th, and I thought they were going to make a really big charge up through the field. Rob Bell did the opening stages, and nothing really has indicated the car's got great overall pace. All I can imagine, and you've got Baz Linders masterminding the whole strategy of this team, is that maybe they're just doing the old-fashioned, the whole concept of running at a regular pace and not trying to win the race on the opening laps.
So let's look at the highlights here. Big crowd lining up. The Belgian flag was delivered down onto the grid from the parachute, and then we were getting ready to rock and roll. Into the lead at the very start, René Rast got the jump on the Lamborghini of Bertolotti. They go up through Eau Rouge just very quickly there with Filkeen. And then, of course, we had a situation with Seefeld in the 333 Ferrari spinning off. Meanwhile, the Mercedes-Benz, which had been penalised, managed to make that 5-minute stop, and they managed to make it under yellow, which should have helped them a fair bit. Finally, the 333 got going again.
And that was the moment that we saw, once the race went again green, that René Rast in the Audi had a problem getting back up to speed.
He did. Never been really explained that to us, has it?
No, I suspect it was something to do with the speed limit button. Either didn't release or something. But all the way through this field, and on board again with the Barwell 666, as we saw the Ferrari, which was really, again, a contender in those opening laps. And Alessandro Pierguidi, the driver behind the car, but it was this 28 Audi that bit by bit caught onto the tail of Robin Freins. And you can see Robin trying to dive down the inside of Mirko Bortolotti, but Bortolotti having none of it whatsoever.
To 74.
And then, of course, this huge accident. So, just more from our race director. But just talk us through that then. Kevin Estre, you put the blame on him?
I think that the car that's exiting the pit lane, it's an incumbent upon him to ensure that he does so safely. Now, I don't know if there's a specific regulation in the regulations for this race, but there were two cars racing side by side at the part of the racetrack where the pit lane blends in. And in my opinion, it should have been the Porsche Kevin Estre who should have conceded and not tried to force the issue.
Of course, what happened then? They had to rebuild the barrier. It took the best part of 40 minutes or so. So a lot of people then got out of sequence. And we had the BMW in the lead briefly of Row Racing. At the time, the McLaren right behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the McLaren, as I say, there's the one odd one out as you go on board with the Bentley, getting up inside the car of Matt Griffin, the Dave Cameron, or Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin, Ferrari. So everybody opting, trying to stagger their pit stops to their own best advantage.
Certainly, and we had quite a few different leaders at that time. There's the number 8 car was leading. And the Bentley coming in.
So back to the live action. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. So there's a car somewhere down in that area. There it is. It's the Ferrari. That's the Alessandro Pierguidi Ferrari. It is beached well and truly. It ain't going to get out of there without external assistance. So there is one of the, well, I hate seeing these vehicles being brought onto the track, but it is a yellow flag zone. That is down at the exit of Stavolo. So the car, and who was behind the wheel of the car at the time?
Just checking that out. The Thai driver.
Okay.
Yep.
So Passan Lathorius, he was in the car. Now, whether that was a self-induced or an assist, we don't know, but lots of drivers have been running very wide on the exit of Stavolo over the Pole Frere Cobe, and we don't know if we've got something to give us an indication, a clear indication as to what was the reason why the Ferrari's in, but that is a disappointment. That was a car that was a front-running car in the early phases of the race. Yeah. Still a long way to go. We've got just over 20 hours, almost 20 and a half hours of this race to go, but getting it out and enabling that car to be returned to the pit lane, and whatever damage or any work that needs to be done. Certainly gravel gets into lots of places as we look at the 28 and look at the pace of that Audi. I mean, it is really right now, absolutely. Nico Müller behind the wheel in the lead, came across the line. Last lap was a 2:23.5 as he makes his way up the hill. There is that leading Audi, and in second place waiting for the 11. No, it's not, in fact it's the number 2, the Stuart Leonard car now, because the 11 is going into the pits. So it's Stuart Leonard in second place, Nicky Katzberg third, and Colm Ledegaard in the McLaren in the 58 car now up into fourth. And there's a bit of a tight battle going on between third Nicky Katzberg and Led Kummergaard in the McLaren. But in the meantime, the gap at the front is considerable. It's 46 seconds advantage over second place. Now, what was that all about? Over braking into the corner, not being able to turn. So you're allowed to do that, but you're not allowed to take advantage of it. Let's have a look and see. He spun. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
So he's just done the easier of the options. The main thing is he doesn't do it in front, and the demon tweaks. Again, just see messy situation in those final turns 18 and 19.
So Nico Müller in the lead at the moment, definitely a young gun, part of the Audi DTM team. Recently had his first victory as well at Norris Ring in that very close championship.
Yeah, I mean, there's Audi and Mercedes. I mean, they've got the cream of all their contracted drivers, all the professional drivers they use across all the disciplines that they race in.
I saw one of their most famous names here, John, quite earlier on in the day. Emanuele Pirro. Why was he here?
Emanuele Pirro is a steward for the Formula 3.
You got it.
And I had a long word with Emanuele, and what my favourite mantra at the minute is to bang on about track limits, and he was here doing the very same thing with the Formula 3, the 2 or 3 events that we had here to ensure that the young drivers are understanding that track limits are here to be obeyed. And of course, young drivers, they look at what they see at a Grand Prix, for example, and their heroes, supposedly the best drivers in the world, abusing track limits at every racetrack, and they think, well, they can get away with it, why can't we? And is that an issue with the pit stop for the Audi, or not? Certainly one of the engineers, the senior engineers in Audi, having a look. So here is a 28 car, yes.
There is
car in.
Yeah. Well, John, let you and Bruce both have your dinner, just while I stood in for a while. I'm going to be back in 3 hours working through the night. I'm going to see all the real action when this race really gets tough. And Bruce Jones is back, so I'm going to hand back to John Watson. And this race is only just starting to warm up. Oh, we've had all kinds of action already, Bruce, but it's not got a rhythm yet, and a lot of things can happen. We look at that top 10 now, I promise you it's going to be nothing like that in 20 hours' time.
Entirely so, thank you very much. So supper enjoyed first by John Watson, then by myself. Must confess, sitting just on the exit of the bus stop, looking down as I had sort of fish and potatoes. Just a wonderful scene, a hot air balloon floating over the top of the circuit, and a lot of people very happily wandering around the outside of the track with their carton of frites. But Audi's at the front end of the field. Nico Müller in the 28 Audi leading the way, but is coming into the pits shortly. In fact, just come into the pits. But as you pointed out, Andrew, just before Andrew left us there, very hard to find the pattern as yet. People pitted all in different sequence under those long safety car periods. We had all the Mercedes starting down the back end of the field. But what we can tell you, Stuart Leonard just got out of the number 2 Audi. It should be Michael Meadows taking over. That's always been at the front end of the field. Robin Freitz, such a feisty challenge for the lead in that first stint of the race with Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini, and that's really going to be in the thick of the action for the hours to come.
But the hypothesis you might want to make is, imagine had those 6 Mercedes-Benz that qualified in the top 6 slots started the race from their positions. Where would the Audis be? Because the pace that Mercedes showed in that shootout was staggering. But that's not the story. The story is the 28, it's in its pit stop. It's just about to leave the pit shortly, and it will most likely be this car, Nicky Katzberg, in the 98 M6 GT3 BMW, who will temporarily take the lead. He'll have a pit stop, and he's being changed by Colm Ledegaard in the McLaren. Finally, we're seeing pace from the McLaren. The last lap the McLaren did was a 2:23. The last lap the BMW did was a 2:24. A second between the two cars. So the McLaren closing down bit by bit. It was 1.8 seconds when they came across the line the last lap. Whether it's going to, well, it looks just as they break into turns 18 and 19 that gap might be down to closer to a second, but we have to wait because the ebb and flow of acceleration and brake, well, it's 1.2 seconds.
And don't forget, of course, John, that the 58 McLaren was the final car to run in the Super Pole shootout, looking for pole position, and it petered to a halt, so that meant it was further down the grid. Obviously got a 6th place elevation when the Mercedes were chucked out, but all hopes resting on the shoulders of that car. One of the 3 McLarens entered by Garage 59, and it came to a spluttering halt. No, not yet what the reason was. Was it electronic?
No,
he was told to close the engine down.
They had an oil, the shaft in the oil pump had essentially, it was sheared. So they just, the driver, I think it was Shane, who was it, Shane Van Gisbergen?
Shane Van Gisbergen, yeah.
He was told to just stop the car instantly because obviously if there's no oil circulation then you'll damage the engine, so they managed to get it stopped. No damage was done to the engine. The appropriate part had to be removed and replaced, but that's within the regulations. But there's the battle for the lead between first and second.
Because Katzberg is really getting tail happy as he's being pushed wider than he wants to all the time. You've got the McLaren right in behind Komi Ledegaard, the French driver, top of Pro-Am in 3rd place overall. Joe Osborne in the 666 Barwell Lamborghini, and then number 44.
Yeah, the Aston Martin.
Which is the Aston Martin, which has gone really well this season. It's right at the end of its life, but it's had a few little glitches, but it's shown form at every single race from the... it was certainly going very well when I was watching it at Monza back in April when we had 57 cars come out to play. Here we have 8 more. In fact, we've only lost 2 so far. So very good indeed. Kevin Estre in the 77 Porsche and Motoaki in the 53 Ferrari. They had the clash just on the exit of Radion, went into the barriers on either side of the circuit. It was that clash that led to the delay, the safety car period, a very long one. But all eyes right now should be on the 98 BMW M6 leading the way and having to find a way around the back markers. Lights ablaze, flashing away. Nicky Katzberg trying to keep Komi Ledegaard behind him, and in fact to pull that 2 or 3 car lengths, and it's how they get through the traffic that will lead to this battle going out or in. But right now Katzberg worked very hard for that pass. Ledegaard didn't have to at all. The Ferrari driver spotted the first car eventually, but 0-1 still flashing on the windscreen of that Row Racing BMW as it comes down hard on the brakes. We're watching from behind, from the view that Komi Ledegaard has. In fact, slightly to the driver's right as they go through that super slow final sequence of corners onto the start-finish straight. See some drops of rain on the windscreen. I think they're old because when I walked back 10 minutes ago, it was not raining.
No, we're getting these sort of very localised, I mean, it's spotting more than raining, and it just may be around the area of the pits. La Source, you can see on the windscreen of the McLaren, there are those spots, but none of them are, in my view, worthy of having to start your wiper going. We did see the McLaren a moment or few earlier where they did have the wiper, but it's certainly up at the top of the circuit. La Source is just about as high around the racetrack as anywhere is. The next highest bit will be here, the climb up the Camel Straight. Komi Ledegaard chasing Nicky Katzberg. These two are lapping 2 minutes 23.45, within a tenth of a second or so. Keeping an eye on Vincent Abril in the Bentley down in 6th place. Last lap, well, it was 2:24, so he's been in traffic as well. But it's interesting that 3 of the Pro-Am cars, the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini in 3rd place, the 44 Oman Racing Aston Martin in 4th place, and the 76 in 4th place. That's the ISR Audi of Henri Acide, Frank Pereira, and Nicolas Lapierre, plus Philippe I can't even pronounce his name. So those 3 Pro-Am cars involved in their own battle, and the battle for 4th and 5th between them is very close, only a second between those 4th and 5th cars.
Yeah, Jonathan Adam doing a great job in 4th place overall in the 44 Aston Martin. Maxime Jus actually at the wheel of the 76 Porsche now in 5th, and then Vincent Abril, as you say, lapping as fast as the leaders, if not slightly faster last time around, trying to make up ground in the number 7 Bentley. But right now, why not just stick with the battle between Katzberg and the BMW and Komi Ledegaard, who is homing in, getting closer and closer. 1 second it was on the start-finish line. It looks as though it's less than that now as they work their way halfway around the circuit. Conditions very stable. We had a little flurry of rain, but it wasn't really enough to get the surface wet, just the windscreens. And really, John, around the circuit, it seemed very, very even Stevens between this pair.
I mean, we've seen the battles with the Jaguar and the Bentley. Now we're seeing the BMW and the McLaren. I mean, obviously the car that is having made its 4th round of pit stops, the 28 Audi that was leading. Nico Müller still behind the wheel. He's back in the fold in 12th place. So he will be shortly, once these lead cars have only done 3 stops as against the 4 of the 28 Audi. They will then be going into the pits, and I would assume that it'll be status quo. But again, you can see lap on lap on lap how much Comledegaard has been taking out of the advantage of the BMW. Again, in a good position now as they drop down out of the source, down the hill. Nothing in acceleration between the two cars. The only interference may be slightly aerodynamic when you make the direction change, trying to keep the nose of the car tucked in. Whoa, Nicky Katzberg, what are you doing? And of course, he had to take a very abrupt action to get the Porsche out of the way. Again, for Comledegaard, that was manna from heaven, because he said, oh, I like it, I'll have more of that.
Yeah, why do 2 wheels over the curb at Radion when you can do 4? And certainly at the restart when the safety car came in, we saw Katzberg being very, I think we say, positive through Eau Rouge. Another pit stop, but don't worry, it's not one of the front runners, it's 888.
It's 888, yeah.
And
that's Kessel Racing. That's
on the 3rd screen, 42nd position, and Marco Zanantini has just brought that in, but going well in the AM class.
So again, look at Lodegaard right now under, as close as you can really get, effectively the rear wing of the BMW with traffic, 3 cars ahead. So, but Katzberg can control this situation much more than you imagine, because he just needs to be up on the inside of the Lamborghini, hang back, hang back, hang back. Then the Lamborghini closes the door slightly as the BMW accelerates. So that's racecraft, and that's what really is so important in endurance racing. It's traffic management. Unlike in a lot of single-seater racing where it's a flat-out, race, you don't have a great deal of traffic management to contend with. But in an endurance racing, so many of the skills are based on how you manage your traffic, and some of the greatest drivers were absolutely brilliant in traffic.
Yes, in fact, it was patience that was the virtue there, and as you said, just held back enough, didn't dive past. He could have gone past sooner, but what he did, he backed up Comledegaard, who will be able to look ahead as he closes in yet again on the BMW, but it's what lies ahead of the BMW is how it counts and where they're going to hit this traffic as they come up to the little right-hand kink before they get to the bus stop. Now this could be a chance for Lodegaard to be very brave. How is he going to weave his way through the traffic? Has he placed himself around the outside of the BMW? Not quite close enough to be on the left-hand side of the track as they go through the final corner of the lap, the 2-part corner, if you will, at the bus stop. But now he's making a move as they go up. He's just tucking in behind, seeing where, in fact, the BMW is going to be placed in Katzberg. And Katzberg takes exactly the right line up the inside into La Source.
Yeah, well, he's going to try and make the undercut coming out because he stayed high on the entry of the BMW. Was more in the centre. There is the undercut. He's got slightly better drive now. It's it's just a flat-out race between the BMW and the McLaren down the hill, and the McLaren has got the advantage. It positioned itself much better in La Source, got the traction off the corner, and now has got a head into the lead for the first time here this evening, with coming up to just a little over 20 hours of this race remaining. And remember, we've had the best part of 45 to 50 minutes of this race under safety car due to that incident with Kevin Estre and the Ferrari on the exit of coming out the pit lane.
And of course, what Lodegaard was praying was the Lamborghini ahead of him, he's just passed it now, was quick enough up through Eau Rouge and Radiot and didn't delay him once he had the drag. And now Katzberg's been chopped out of the way as they dive down the hill through Rivage and on down. So great move there from Comledegaard to take the lead in the Garage 59 McLaren, number 58, 59 if you will, as they run down the hill towards Pouhon behind the number 3 Audi, but 3 not in the reckoning. In fact, 24th position at the moment, and at the wheel is Philippe Albuquerque. But again, the race order has been rejigged quite a lot, but that's an absolutely true pass for the lead by McLaren, with Comledegaard now got 1 car between himself and Nicky Katzberg in the 98 BMW.
Yeah, that car that Philippe Albuquerque has been in just recently, so that might account for a slightly lower than expected position. Philippe Albuquerque, another driver, contracted Audi driver, been drafted in to this raft of WRT and Audi Sport run by WRT R8 V10s. As we go back to the lead car up the hill once again, he's got a little bit of a breathing space. Let's have a look and see just how the traffic and how you play the traffic. McLaren closing on the Lamborghini, carried a good speed up, gets up alongside this Lamborghini as they come up the long Camel Straight. The BMW getting trapped, and again, clever use. Lodegaard, a little bit of a wobble just under braking as he entered. He made a mistake in the first part of the corner, but had the Lamborghini between himself and the BMW, so he was able to consolidate, get the car straightened up and get underway.
Yeah, there was no way that the row racing BMW, which is obviously going to come in now because they're getting ready in the pit lane, and into the pit lane goes McLaren from the lead of the race, Cohn-Hedegaard, but he is on the downhill stretch in the pit lane, whereas the BMW will be stopping in the top part of the pit lane.
50 kilometres per hour is pedestrian, believe me, and you're sitting there, I mean, from the point when you cross the pit lane entrance line to where the McLaren team, the Garage 59 team, are based, probably takes the thin end of 70-odd seconds to get there. Here he is now down on what I would call the heritage side of the pit complexes. There are two complexes here at Spa-Francorchamps. Look below those, see that pipe? That's the exhaust pipe from the turbos, from that 4.4 twin-turbo V8 BMW engine. The way that they've got the turbos installed and mounted, I mean, it is a piece of engineering work. Absolutely stunning.
Cohn-Hedegaard still hasn't got to his pit garage. He had to go round the source and then snake back into the heritage pits. His is the final pit garage. You can see the pit crew flagging him in. He'll have a clean exit, but in fact half of the pit stop has been done for the car that came in from behind him, Nicky Katzberg BMW. We saw he looked like the taller figure of Steph Dusseldorp ready to take that over. Driver change has been effected. The wheel change is nearly being completely done on the left-hand side of the car, waiting for the right-hand side to be done. Now, will we have a driver change? Will Van Gisbergen be... yes, he's just been taken over from Cohn-Hedegaard. He said the first part of the race was quite quiet, but we reckon he was sleeping in the team truck because it was anything but quiet as Cohn-Hedegaard has got out of the 58.
Nice to hand the car over to your teammate in the lead. Good job by Cohn-Hedegaard to get the McLaren up into that position for the first couple of hours of the race. For whatever reasons, it was hovering around the bottom of the top 10, and I just kept, well, when is this car going to start performing?
Well, it qualified, well, it dropped to the tail end of that super pole, which put it down in 20th position, elevated to 14th after BMW got put back, and in fact one other car was pushed down, so started from 13th place, had to bide his time, pick his way up, and don't forget a lot of that period was behind the safety car, so the McLaren couldn't run at its full pace. But the 98 BMW, lights flashing, coming down the pit lane. Will the McLaren be released in front? Yes, it will.
Yes.
So that was absolutely equal pit stop time. Station has been held. In fact, the McLaren, if anything, has gained about 1 or 2 seconds there through that pit stop.
It has gained certainly a little bit, but the more important thing is where will the McLaren filter into the traffic that's making its way up through Eau Rouge, Radion, and then onto the straight, and likewise, where will the BMW blend in? Now, Shane Van Gisbergen has been an absolute revelation in GT3 racing here in Europe and also in Australia. Remember, he was in the winning car in the Bathurst 12 Hours earlier this year, and that is a tough race on Mount Panorama, phenomenal racetrack in New South Wales in Australia, and he is absolutely delighted and loving being racing in Europe, particularly in circuits like Spa-Francorchamps.
Well, we can see a Jaguar coming up to the top of the straight there, but what we ought to point out is Aston Martin are now having a go in the lead of the race. The Pro-Am car, Johnny Adam, number 44, leading by, well, we'll give you an accurate margin when they get to the next timing point, but he's leading from the 99 BMW, the sister row racing car that Philippe Eng has just vacated, and now it's Maxime Martin has got back on board that. Maxime Martin, Belgian racer. So we've got Aston Martin from BMW and the number 7 Bentley, and then Audi number 6 Marcus Winkelhock up into 4th place. Yes, we've had yet another jigger of the order.
But currently the top 5 cars have only completed 3 of their 3 pit stops. The first car to complete it 4 is the number 28 Nico Müller Audi, and that's the car Laurens van Thor, René Rast. So that car, in effect, once the top 5 have to make their mandatory pit stops, tire change, maybe a driver change, we don't know, that car more than likely will then take over the lead, and we have to see where the 58 McLaren will be, because we're just watching the timing and scoring, and it's back out on track, but it of course has fallen all the way down. Currently we're seeing it at 14th, but it's got to come across timing and scoring to get a true reflection of what that car's true position is. But I will want to watch and see the kind of lap times we're going to get from Shane Van Gisbergen in his stint, and I suspect he'll be in the car for most likely a 2-hour stint, as they have done with their previous 2 drivers.
Absolute minimum on that, we feel, but let's enjoy for now. The Oman Racing Team run by Motorbase Performance, and Johnny Adam leading the race in the 44 Aston Martin. He's 13.5 seconds up on Maxime Martin's 99 BMW, and really going well. Fastest lap for that car so far in the race, 2 minutes 22.5. Last lap 2 minutes 25, so 3 seconds down on that pace, but
there is
traffic aplenty.
That's the 28 Audi right now, caught in the middle of a large group of cars. So Nico Müller will, one that's a Mercedes, one of the as that the 80, it is the 84 car Mercedes. That, of course, is a lap down, looking to see where it is overall right now.
31st position. So won't want to give that up easily. We heard from Jasmine Jafar, the Malaysian driver. He doesn't want the front cars going any faster. They've got that 5-minute deficit to make up.
And that is the worst scenario for the Audi. That's the car that, well, I would assume once the other lead cars make, and in fact, Johnny Adam has now made the way into the pit, so the honour of leading the race, Aston Martin, we've seen Jaguar, we've seen McLaren, we've seen Ferrari, we've seen pretty much every car in the field.
Lamborghini. Have we had a Ferrari at the front? Yes,
no,
we did. Briefly, the number 50 Ferrari, Alessandro Pierguidi, led for 1 lap. He was second behind Bortolotti's Lamborghini and pitted 1 lap later. So that's not bad. That's 6 or 7 manufacturers.
So we're going to see in the next moments or so, as we get close to the conclusion of the 4th hour of this 24-hour event, but that's a real problem for Nico Müller to find a way past the Mercedes, the 84 car, and that's a quick car with a quick driver behind the wheel, Jasmine Jafar. Very slight, tiny driver from Thailand, but he has adapted extremely well to the different kinds of downforce, the different static weights of a GT3 car compared to the lightweight single-seaters that he's fundamentally formed his career in. So the Audi still looking for a way around. The Mercedes went way to the right of the racetrack. I'm not entirely sure because he wasn't being threatened by the Audi in a straight line. But he needs to clear the Mercedes at the earliest opportunity. And he may try and do something a bit brave down the inside into Bruxelles. But the Mercedes is sort of kind of making it very difficult for Nico Müller to do anything. Wide, way wide this time. So that was actually a pass, a gentleman's pass. He's a lap down, more maybe, well, certainly a lap down on the Audi. And he's not in that race. He's got a separate race, and that's to get to position. Now, if this was to happen maybe at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, Bruce, I don't think it'd be so kind to the Audi.
No one feels that the difficulty quotient will be ratcheted up by the hour. Those Mercedes certainly fight their way up. Jasmine Jafar gained 2 positions, others have made pit stops ahead of him up to 29th, but it's going to be a long haul for those 6 Mercedes that were sent down towards the back of the field for a long time. They were in the 40s, now they're in the 30s. Now Jafar, the second best placed, I think 86, 2 places ahead of him is the best. That's Maxi Götz, the 86 entry. This bright yellow one, AMG team, HTB Motorsport, same team as Jasmine Jafar, but totally different colour schemes. And certainly, I think John, we approve of a car that's bright yellow and stands out, particularly as the evening falls here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, just having a little look down and see the top drivers, what their lap times are, and it's actually Maxime Martin who has now taken the lead because Jaguar, the 44, I beg your pardon, Aston Martin is into the pit lane. Vincent Abril second place in the Bentley, just 5.2 seconds behind the BMW, and we've seen that little battle a little bit earlier before the round of pit stops. So Vincent Abril, and then number 6, Marcus Winkelhock, a further 7 seconds behind the lead car, but only 2.1 seconds behind the second place car. So a battle at the front, okay, not quite joined, as we are saying, through the field, but that's a battle that's going to percolate on. And then you've got the 28, that's the Nico Müller car. It is 12 seconds behind Marcus Winkelhock. Winkelhock, of course, having only made 3 stops as against 4 for Nico Müller.
Yeah, Nico Müller on the charge. His last lap at 2 minute 23 flat. That's a very competitive time. He's got a lot of traffic ahead of him. But effectively, he will be in the lead of the race very soon as those 3 front runners, 99, 7 and 6, make their way into the pit lane to take their 4th pit stop. So conditions dry at Spa-Francorchamps. 12 seconds to go, and we've completed 4 hours.
Just interesting looking on the readout on the instrumentation using 3rd gear up at Les Combes. Then we go into 4th gear. So then hard down the brakes, down into, I would suspect, 2nd gear. It is 2nd gear indeed. So back to the run up to Blanchimont.
So with 4 hours gone and leading the race, but due a pit stop is the 99 BMW with Maxime Martin, Belgian racer, at the wheel. Vincent Abril giving chase in the number 7 Bentley, and 3rd place Marcus Winkelhock in the number 6 Audi. Riding on board at the moment with now Shane van Gisbergen having his first run in this race in the 58 McLaren. He is placed at the moment after the flurry of pit stops down in 14th place. Will gain a handful of about half a dozen cars ahead of him. Do need to give us their 4th pit stop sometime soon. If you've just come in, the pit stop sequence in this race has been all over the place. We had safety car periods, a very long, a short one and a long one. and it really gave the teams a chance to run different tactics, bring their drivers in at different times. The race is still trying to settle down, but what we can tell you is that 58 McLaren has worked its way towards the front of the field and is very much a factor in the race.
Yeah, I mean, of course, what will be interesting is once the whole cycle of the fourth round of pit stops has been complete, where actually will the 58 McLaren be? Because it was always hovering in the early phase of the race around 10, 11, 12, and I said, well, where's the pace, where's the pace? Then we saw the car eventually, because of the overlap and the stagger of people's decisions to make pit stops, got into the lead. Now Shane Van Gisbergen behind the wheel. His first flying lap is 2 minutes 24.9, so he's in traffic trying to get up to speed.
Well, one of the drivers who's been really going well is Joe Osborne. He's down with Charlie in the pits.
Okay, Joe, you got out of the car in third place, looking very hot, sweaty and quite flustered. What happened in the pit stop? Tell us.
So we had a clean driver change to Ollie Gavin, and the boys were on the way around doing the forward tyres, and the actual gun seized on the front left, so we had to do a gun change. Just the time lost, obviously 50 seconds to a minute, just absolutely gutting as a driver. All you feel like your whole stint's just gone out the window. These things happen and all of that cliche stuff we can say, but it's right.
So car handling well, circuit's good, tyres are good, all the team, you seem like you've got a really good rapport with all 4 British BRDC drivers out there. Good rapport between you, but what a shame with that. So how's the circuit? Talk us through that.
Circuit's good, it's definitely rubbering up. We had a little bit of rain midway through my run, which made it interesting, but being British, you're obviously used to all that kind of weather and stuff. That's good. The other 4 drivers are mega. We've got Ollie Gavin anchoring the drive, Phil Keane, who knows the car well, John Minshaw is a super am, and then I'm just the 4th one here for a good time.
Cool. Okay, mate. Well, keep smiling. You know you got the pace.
Thank you.
Well, running 5th in class, Joe Osborne slightly down by Joe's standards, as he's always normally hopping from foot to foot. He underplays his role. One of the roles he mentioned this weekend was trying to give extra driver coaching to John Minshaw, describes him as a super sub. He says, if I can teach him to go a second faster, that saves me having to really hang my tail out to try and save that time myself.
Yeah, I mean, John Minshaw, of course, well known for driving in historic racing, but if he was to give up that historic racing and focus on contemporary cars, undoubtedly he would make even quicker progress, because when you're driving, a 1963 Jaguar E-Type with rubber on it like concrete and clay that slides forever, then getting into a modern GT car with the levels of grip, the braking, the aero performance, it is an adaptation that does take a bit of time. That car currently in 23rd place, Oliver Gavin in it, and I'm interested to see how Oliver Gavin comes or adapts to GT3 racing, because he's been racing in the Corvettes throughout the world, but primarily in the United States. And based on the comments from Jan Magnussen that we got back in Paul Ricard, he said, I can't believe just the pace, the competitiveness of this race series. And Oliver Gavin, I think it's his first time here in a GT race, in certainly contemporary period, and I'm sure he's going, I thought this was going to be easier.
Yeah, but in fact, Ollie's starting to dip his toe in a few more ponds. I think he did an ADAC GT round earlier in the year. He's been racing in Australia. Just scored that 100th win for Corvette Racing last weekend. But down in 5th position in Pro-Am. But one of the things with the 666 Barwell crew is they've now cycled all 4 of their drivers. No double stints for them.
Bentley in trouble, one of the Parker Bentleys, and that is in contact. Derek Pierce, has he hit the barrier or is he just parked against it? It's difficult just to see. Looks like he may have caught. Was that a whereabouts?
It's very hard to work out where that is.
Oh, and he's big time. So that is heavily into the barrier, and we're just trying to work out which part of the racetrack it is. Is it coming?
It's out of Les Combes.
It is indeed.
He's bounced or been bounced across the curve.
Let's have a look and see.
And
all
he certainly was on his own.
unforced error. And maybe just got onto the dirt on the outside of the circuit.
Full course yellow in 20 seconds.
And guess what? Full course yellow. We just heard from the race director. 20 seconds till that will come out. Who will that affect? Who will be the winners? Who will be the losers? So Team Parker Racing have got some work to do to rebuild the car. 10 seconds until the full course yellow. It'll be the 3rd full course yellow of the race. The Parker Racing Bentley in the barriers in the tar.
Full course yellow now.
Now, the car obviously has hit the tyre barrier, but it's a tyre barrier. I suspect if the car can be removed, it will be able to be driven back to the pits. While there's certainly front-end damage, it's principally carbon fibre. It doesn't look like it would be what I would call mechanical. You can just see Andy Merrick there looking at the screen, walking away, obviously disappointed that his car has been in contact, so he will go away and assess the situation. So they've got to get the car reversed back and with some hope that car can be driven back, and whatever is superficial damage, and I would imagine that would be most of it. I would not imagine that the right front is heavily damaged, but of course you're going to have to check all the suspension mounts. But the car needs to be pulled back from the nose, which has sort of heaved its way under that tyre barrier. Don't often see a car in a barrier at this part of the racetrack. If it is, it's normally because you had an assist, but this appeared to be maybe just getting on to the edge of the outside of the circuit. There's rubber being laid down, the rubber rolls off these tyres and it lies on the outside of the circuit. Never a very pleasant thing to have, because you just really could do nothing but sit there. Oh, look, BMW in.
Very timely, full course yellow, and from the lead of the race you can see the 0-1 flashing on the windscreen is the 99 Maxime Martin driven BMW from the lead of the race. That means Vincent Abril in the number 7 Bentley will take the lead, unless he too decides now is the time. Under full course yellow you lose far less of a disadvantage, or have far less of a disadvantage than if you pit under full racing conditions. This is full course yellow conditions.
And number 6 Marcus Winkelhock in the Audi also opting to make a pit stop. So again, this is what these teams do. They practice these scenarios. There's somebody there sitting, or not one person, there's probably a team of people sitting at computers calculating strategies. Do we come in now? How long is this full course yellow going to be? So I assume that same thoughts for Audi, same thought for BMW.
Well, we were talking just moments ago that Maxime Martin owed us a pit stop. He only had 3 on the board. In second place, Vincent Abril, he owed us a pit stop, and Marcus Winkelhock in the number 6 Audi, likewise. We then thought if they came in, that would elevate Nico Muller in the number 28 Audi to the top. This is under full course yellow, so not so much time is being lost relative to those on the track by the people who've made the pit stop. This gives them a very healthy helping hand. For those who just pitted, must be very galling indeed.
Well, at the minute, the car that will eventually take over the lead of the race will be the 28 Audi, but it's got the number 8 Bentley with Andy Soucek behind the wheel. And then further behind that, the number 19, that's the Grasser Racing Lamborghini, Michele Barretta, Andrea Puccini and Luke Stolz. So that is Stolz. Well, Stolz in fact has made a pit stop as well. So the Stolz that car's going on to, looks like it's Soucek. So a little bit of time being. Oh, 24, the second Parker Bentley, yes.
Oh dear, that's the car being shared by Ian Loggy, Tom Onslow Cole, Callum McLeod, who started, and Andy Merrick. We saw Merrick in the pit garage, so let's see where they're placed in the race. 24th position, no, sorry, it's 32nd position.
That's down at Stavlo, or just campus then into Stavlo. So why the car, it's pulled over and stopped.
Yeah, Tom Onslow Cole just dropping down into the 30s now. No understanding what the problem is with that, but the 30 Bentley, the one we've seen under the tyre wall at the exit of Les Combes, went very well. It was second in class earlier on with Chris Harris, the Top Gear presenter, at the wheel. But of course that was at a period where they're out of sync. But now we've got cars very much in sync in the pit lane, and they're the ones having the advantage now with 0-2 on the windscreen. That's not an accurate position, however, because that was where it crossed the start-finish line, and that was in the pits.
And also, just to compound things for other teams, the Nissan number 23, it stopped down at turn 14. So it has now, in effect, rejoined. I wonder, was there something between the Team Parker Bentley and 23 Nissan? The Nissan has rejoined. We don't know what's going to happen to the Bentley that's stuck down there. It is. That's the Derek Pierce car. So it still has yet to be fired back up, if it is possible to do so.
But when we looked into the pit garage and you saw Andy Merrick looking concerned, he was probably already getting news from his car, the number 24 car, that something was wrong. Eventually we picked it up because that pulled to the side of the circuit with his co-driver, Tom Onslow Cole, at the wheel. So in the space of about 3 minutes, things have gone terribly wrong indeed for Team Parker Racing and both of its Bentleys. So here we are, third full course yellow. Who's leading the race? It was, and it is, Maxime Martin, the 99 BMW. The BMW's taking turns at the top, sharing that with Alexander Sims and Philippe Eng. Bentley, Smith, Abril and Kane in second place, and then the Audis, number 6, number 28, pulling down third and fourth. 19 is one of the Lamborghinis recently driven by Barretta, Michele Barretta. Then another Audi, Burvish Van Thor and Stevens, one of about half a dozen ex-Formula 1 racers here at the Spa 24 Hour, giving it their all. And Michel Broniczewski started the number 11 Ferrari. He won a race at Spa-Francorchamps earlier today, and he's going really well. Best of those in the Pro-Am class in 7th overall. We've had fleeting great performances from the Jaguars. We've got them in they were 14th and 16th, and now they've just dropped down the order a little bit as they've made their pit stops. And there we can see Frey, Ortelli and Costa in 16th. But place is changing very much. This was just at the point in the race. A lot of drivers were making their pit stops, and those who managed to get in just before the full course yellow have had the advantage. Those who had the full course yellow sort of, I should say, effectively fall during their period in the pits, not losing so much time. But what we had seen was the 28 Audi starting to make its way to the very front of this field. And I think once we've run this graphic, look out for the Mercedes in this field, because they had to start right at the tail of the field, with the exception of the number 89, the second of the ACA ASP entries. All of the Mercedes got docked and got penalised and given a 5-minute stop-and-go penalty. It's going to take a long time, however well they're driven, for them to work their way back up the order. But right now we're looking at the front of the field. It's BMWs, Bentleys, Audis. The Aston Martin had a fleeting time in the lead, but they've just made the pit stop with Johnny Adam and fallen into the second half, into the top 20, if you will. 63 cars still running. It might actually only be 62 now, because we've lost at least one of the Bentleys.
Yeah, and that we saw that just looking at the Nissan, down on 47th place for the 23 car. The 22 car slightly better off in 40th place, 2 laps down, and I think the 23, we don't know whether that had a problem or why it pulled over, but now we're getting the green flag, the race back underway. So it's going to take yet again another lap or so. It looks like Vincent Abril, simply because he's made his round of pit stops. He still has got to do the 4th one, so he's in the lead. Maxime Martin is still recovering from its pit stop.